Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, the two women resemble children caught in wrongdoing. My lord, they were the ones who first harassed us and even threatened me with knives. Xiaozhu protests. Cheng Chumo finds amusement in the situation, feigning displeasure. The two women grow increasingly anxious. My lord, what Xiaozhu said is true. They did threaten me with knives, Li Lizzie insists, desperate to ensure Cheng Chumo does not perceive them as ruthless women. Cheng Chumo is already aware of their true nature. They are obedient and docile in his presence, yet fierce when he is away. Xiaozhu's ruthless character is not lost on him, nor is Li Lizzie's. Your performance today was lacking. Your marksmanship requires improvement if you wish to protect me, Cheng Chumo advises. Only then do the two women dare to meet his gaze. My lord, my shooting is excellent. I shall take the next turn, Xiaozhu claims. Li Lizzie, indignant, retorts, do not be fooled by her. My marksmanship is superior. I took down more than 10 of them. The truth speaks louder than words. Cheng Chumo notes Li Lizzie's evasive eyes and chooses not to confront the matter. Indeed, Li Lizzie has the best marksmanship, he concedes. Li Lizzie's cheeks flush, and she shoots Cheng Chumo a playful glare. You impudent prince, she mumbles. Cheng Chumo can no longer contain his laughter, erupting into mirth. Li Lizzie, incensed, chases after him. Cheng Chumo remains still as Li Lizzie leaps onto his back. In this position, he carries her toward the shore. Glancing at the corpses strewn across the ground, he kicks one lightly to confirm their demise. Next time, leave one alive. I need to know where their lair is, Cheng Chumo instructs. Li Lizzie nods obediently. Upon the villagers' return, they find the scene of carnage and instinctively kneel. Clean this mess up, Cheng Chumo commands, striding away with Li Lizzie to explore other areas. They had initially planned to share a meal, but with so many lives lost, the stench of blood is overwhelming. After the villagers have tidied up, Li Lizzie and Cheng Chumo return to commence the shipbuilding process. The addition of the giant axe significantly accelerated the shipbuilding process. Within a few days, several 10-meter-long vessels were completed. With the weather being favorable today, Cheng Chumo decided to launch the ships. 5 boats set sail, and the trial voyage was remarkably successful. Cheng Chumo took out his binoculars and spotted numerous small boats approaching from a large island towards the islet. Return, he instructed, as he wished to avoid a confrontation at sea, where uncertainties abound, particularly with gunfire. The small boats swayed incessantly, complicating Cheng Chumo's aim. The villagers rowed ashore, and Cheng Chumo went back to summon the two women. The enemy was more numerous this time, making it difficult for him to handle alone. The two women, armed with their rifles, followed Cheng Chumo to the village. Li Lizzie and Xiaozhu climbed onto the rooftops while Cheng Chumo stationed himself at the village entrance. Make sure to observe closely and see whose marksmanship is superior, Li Lizzie remarked. All right, Cheng Chumo replied. As the enemy landed, he opened fire immediately, followed by Li Lizzie and Xiaozhu. 3 foes fell. The two women were extremely serious. Neither wished to lose, for the loser would be tasked with washing clothes and cooking. The enemy was notably aggressive, brandishing weapons and shouting as they charged. The distance from the beach to the village entrance was merely a kilometer, allowing them to reach it in mere minutes. Cheng Chumo glanced back at the villagers, who were already armed with kitchen knives, and he felt a wave of satisfaction. After dispatching over 10 foes, he picked up a tang saber beside him. The two women ceased firing, drawing their handguns in preparation for close combat. Cheng Chumo wielded the saber, taking down enemies with ease. Each strike felled a small karami. A fitting description indeed. They were not tall, reaching only to Cheng Chumo's navel. One small karami attempted a sneak attack, but was met with a swift kick to the head from Cheng Chumo, resulting in its demise. Cheng Chumo's killing spree invigorated him. The more he fought, the more exhilarating it became. It was a peculiar feeling, one where vengeance could only be satisfied with blood. The villagers stared in awe at the formidable Cheng Chumo, who had now felled over 30 foes. The village chief's weapon was extraordinary, and he dispatched the small karamis with singular strokes. After half an hour, all the small karamis lay dead, and those attempting to flee were shot down by the two women. Haha, what a relief. Cheng Chumo laughed heartily. The village children, frightened, cried out. Li Lizzie and Xiaozhu exchanged glances, feeling odd. They too had killed many but felt no remorse. Instead, it was as if they had avenged a great wrong. What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and clean up, Li Lizzie commanded. The villagers quickly sprang into action, starting the cleanup. Li Lizzie and Xiaozhu approached Cheng Chumo, noses wrinkling at the scent of blood. You should take a bath, Li Lizzie suggested, finding the smell unbearable. Cheng Chumo chuckled, and the children of the village, witnessing his smile, cried even louder. The two women pulled Cheng Chumo towards the water to wash him off. The seawater turned red with blood. Li Lizzie lathered him with soap, and after a lengthy wash, he was finally clean. Back in the carriage, Li Lizzie inquired, who were those people? Why did it feel like we were not killing humans? Xiaozhu looked at Cheng Chumo, equally curious. Consider them as small karamis. They are parasites of the earth, Cheng Chumo explained. The two women nodded in understanding. Suddenly, Li Lizzie appeared excited. Shall we spend today together, my prince? She asked. Truth be told, Cheng Chumo felt exhausted. Observing the eager faces of the two women, he replied, do as you wish, I shall rest. With that, he closed his eyes and soon fell asleep. The two women did not let him off easily. Chapter 412. Seeking a national title with the ships now available. Cheng Chumo did not rush to set sail. Li Lizzie held the book Mosey as Chung Chumo assisted her. A group of villagers brought various materials, preparing to fortify the island's defenses. Venturing out to sea was not a matter of a day or two, and Chung Chumo was determined to ensure the safety of their rear. If trouble arose, regret would come too late. If there's no alternative, so be it. We must utilize any available means, he thought. My prince, let us dig a large pit here. If they come this way, they will certainly fall in. We can place sharpened stakes inside. Once they enter, they won't have a chance of survival, Li Lizzie suggested. Chung Chumo nodded in agreement. The villagers began excavating the pit and marking it clearly, ensuring it was visible to prevent villagers, especially children, from falling in. Numerous traps were set up around the village. The children endured some scolding, while the women led them to memorize the locations of the traps. Any child who dared to forget would face punishment. The children, tearful but determined, committed the traps to memory. You must remember all the traps. If those people attempt to ambush you, lead them into the traps. Wouldn't that be fun? Chung Chumo encouraged. The prospect of play invigorated the children. Yes, if someone bullies us, we can lure those bad people to the traps, they thought. Excitement gleaming in their eyes. The women no longer needed to discipline the children. They remembered better than the adults. This could be considered tailored education. If Chung Chumo had framed it as a matter of survival, they would hardly have grasped its significance, but frame it as a means to eliminate their bullies. And their commitment was unwavering. After several days, all the traps were completed. Only a few would lead to death. Most would merely ensnare. The villagers memorized the deadly traps, while the children remembered all the locations and could find any trap when needed. This was a revelation for the villagers. The weather was pleasant today, and Chung Chumo decided it was time to set sail. He had already inquired about the location, and some villagers were familiar with it. They set off, with Chung Chumo at the bow, armed with a sniper rifle, while the villagers rowed the boat. A day later, they approached an island dotted with grassy huts. This is the stronghold of the village chief. I have been here secretly before. There are many small dwarfs inside. Shall we storm in? A villager asked. Chung Chumo took out his binoculars and observed for a long time before glancing towards some nearby rocks. A smile spread across his face as he decided to set up an ambush here. If I can kill 20 a day, in 10 days, that's 200. In just a few days, I can wipe them out. The small boat docked beside the rocks, and Chung Chumo disembarked. You all go fishing, he instructed. The villagers complied and rowed away in their small boat. Chung Chumo lay atop a rocky outcrop, peering through the scope at the diminutive figures on the island. After steadying his aim, he fired. The sniper rifle, equipped with a silencer, let out a soft puff, and one of the little figures collapsed. The remaining inhabitants of the island scattered in panic. Chung Chumo occasionally fired another shot, and soon, not a single soul was left visible on the island. They had all hidden away. After resting on the rocks for half an hour, he resumed his watch. The little figures, believing Chung Chumo had departed, began to clear the bodies. He fired again, and after a series of 10 shots, another of the diminutive beings fell. Once more, the island was deserted. A day passed, and the villagers returned by boat, bringing provisions for Chung Chumo before departing from the village. Li Lizzie was engrossed in studying the works of Mosey. The villagers busied themselves crafting components, as Li Lizzie aimed to encase a cart. The book contained designs for a vessel that could both float on the sea and submerge to conceal itself. This vessel was perfectly suited for the cart, and Li Lizzie resolved to complete it so she could accompany Chung Chumo. The assembly of parts was extensive, but after a month of tireless effort, success was achieved. The villagers launched the boat into the sea without the need for a ramp. It featured a mechanism akin to that of a bicycle. If someone pedaled continuously, the vessel would glide forward. Chung Chumo returned and praised Li Lizzie for her ingenuity, which filled her with pride. The trio set sail, with Chung Chumo pedaling, Li Lizzie steering, and Xia Zhu ready to assist. Upon reaching the island, they found it devoid of life, all having fallen victim to Chung Chumo's marksmanship. Let us explore other islands, Li Lizzie suggested, producing a rough sea chart drafted by Chung Chumo during this time. He nodded in agreement, and they pressed onward, inspecting each island. Whenever a diminutive figure came into sight, Chung Chumo would take aim and fire. Following this course, they anticipated reaching the land of the Japanese in half a month. The thought exhilarated Chung Chumo, as he envisioned a spree of carnage, completely oblivious to the urgency of the lost subjects of the Tang dynasty. Meanwhile, in Chang'an, the atmosphere remained austere within the Tai Chi Hall. Empress Wu Zetian stood with her hands clasped behind her back, surveying the ministers below, her expression grim. Have we yet discerned who is responsible? Have we failed to locate the retired emperor? Do you all wish for death? She admonished. Gansu had already sent her a missive, granting a month for the search. Should they fail, they would face dire consequences. This was no jest, as those women would not hesitate to retaliate. In Chang'an, she was the sovereign. In Gansu, she was merely a subjugated wife, unable to resist. Her family resided in Gansu, mother, sister, any of whom could be easily dealt with. Your Majesty, Japan seeks a national title. One minister ventured. Wu Zetian cast a cold smile at him. Take him away and have him beaten, she commanded. Having recently been afflicted by her menstrual cycle, her mood was particularly foul. The unfortunate minister found himself at the wrong moment. Wu Zetian would not typically resort to violence over such matters, but today was different. Who dares approach me with such nonsense? Who else wishes to feel my wrath? She declared. The ministers fell silent, sensing that they were treading on thin ice. After the court session, Wu Zetian retreated to the Ganlu Palace. So, you wish to play games? Let us engage. Summon Di Renjie to see me, she ordered. And the palace maid complied. Di Renjie soon arrived at the Ganlu Palace. Your Majesty, he greeted. Investigate the Gansu train incident. Act first and report later, Wu Zetian instructed. Di Renjie acknowledged and departed. Wu Zetian began drafting a decree to send to the naval commander, Niu, instructing him to locate the retired emperor. After issuing these commands, Wu Zetian reclined in her chair to rest. Where have you gone, my brother-in-law? She mused to herself, doubting that Qing Chumo had met his demise. Surely, he had been swept away to a place unknown. Not only did Wu Zetian doubt Qing Chumo's fate, but so did the ministers. Who could possibly vanquish him? It was a laughable notion. At the Chui household, inquiries were made. Have we discovered anything? Chui Wenchen asked. It appears the retired emperor's train has plunged into the sea. All traces disappear along the shoreline, a member of the Chui family reported. The Chui clan had grown immensely powerful, their influence reaching across the globe. To conspire against Qing Chumo is beyond your capabilities. This is my opportunity for merit, Chui Wenchen declared. Gather all merchant vessels. I shall seek the retired emperor. He issued his orders. Chui Wenchen remained somewhat apprehensive. Whether his fleet could locate Qing Chumo was uncertain. If they failed, it would all be in vain. Contact the naval commander, Niu, and inform him that there has been a breakthrough in cannon research. We need to prioritize the navy, Chui Wenchen commanded. His kin complied. Chui Wenchen felt a surge of satisfaction, knowing that others were unfamiliar with Niu, while he had established rapport with him. Niu, preoccupied with his duties, rarely associated with them. Having concluded his directives, Chui Wenchen set forth to find Qing Chumo. Meanwhile, Qing Chumo was aboard the vessel, taking aim. The three were unaware of the island's name. They simply fired upon any sight of the little figures. There was no room for error in their judgment. Li Lizzie, now the commanding officer, stood at the bow, hands clasped behind her back, feigning observation. This position is quite advantageous. Our target today is 50, she declared. Xiazhu stifled a laugh beside her. Qing Chumo felt exasperated. They seemed oblivious to the enormity of hitting 50 distant targets. He chose silence, lying flat on the deck, firing repeatedly. 3 days passed, and the island fell silent. Qing Chumo ceased shooting and turned to Li Lizzie. Where to next? He inquired. Li Lizzie pondered, glancing at Xiazhu. Let us seek a larger island. It's wasteful to clear them all one by one, she suggested. Qing Chumo admired her cunning. Xiazhu understood the value of targeting populous areas. Ultimately, they decided to pursue the largest island, heading towards the most expansive landmass in the Ryukyu archipelago. The trio sailed leisurely, while Niu toiled under the weight of his responsibilities. Having completed his mission in Arabia, he prepared to retreat, knowing that his small contingent could not continue to take risks. Just as he was about to withdraw, he received a message from Chui Wenchen. The efficiency of Chui Wenchen's operations was unmatched, even surpassing that of the court. Upon receiving the news, Niu hastened towards the Sea Cucumber Bay. While others were unaware of Qing Chumo's whereabouts, he was well aware. As long as Qing Chumo was at sea, it was certain he would be in the place he despised most. Chui Wenchen awaited him there, and upon seeing Niu's fleet, he boarded the flagship to meet him. The success of Niu Laodi in locating His Majesty now hinges upon your efforts, remarked Chui Wenchen. Niu, feeling the weight of responsibility, understood the significance of this task. For Chui Wenchen was a renowned figure, one of the most experienced individuals in the Tang dynasty, having engaged with Qing Chumo since his youth. Rest assured, Brother Chui. I know exactly where our sovereign is, Niu replied confidently. The fleet set sail. Half a month later, Chui Wenchen found himself in awe of Niu's capabilities. They had, astonishingly, arrived at the island where Qing Chumo had first landed. Upon encountering the villagers and learning that Qing Chumo was the village chief, Chui Wenchen's heart soared with joy. This was indeed a fortuitous development. When they discovered that Qing Chumo was engaged in eliminating the diminutive foes, Niu's eyes sparkled with excitement. This was a task he had long desired to undertake, but had lacked a suitable pretext. You say your village chief has been slain by those little brutes? Excellent. They dare to bully the citizens of the Tang dynasty. They have brought death upon themselves, Niu proclaimed, his face flushed with indignation. Chui Wenchen nodded in agreement. Upon returning to the ship, the fleet set off again, now with even greater urgency. Within days, they had encircled Qing Chumo's small vessel. Li Lizzie stood at the bow, arms crossed, as Niu and Chui Wenchen received a thorough reprimanding. Who sent you here? My command was proceeding perfectly well. What do you intend to accomplish? Do you seek punishment? Li Lizzie scolded fiercely. Chui Wenchen dared not raise his gaze, while Niu stood there, bewildered, as if he did not comprehend the words. Qing Chumo, seated nearby, found the scene amusing. Li Lizzie was thoroughly enjoying herself, and these two were the perfect targets for her ire. My lady, we are merely concerned for your safety. Those little brutes are not human, Niu interjected. Li Lizzie shot him a glare. Nonsense. Who claimed they were human? They are gifts for the prince. He intends to eradicate them all. You are to follow at a distance. Dare to interfere, and I shall deal with you myself, she retorted. Niu nodded vigorously. I have run out of ammunition. Please send more, Qing Chumo requested. Indeed, Send more ammunition, Li Lizzie echoed. Niu Air complied. Your Majesty, might you require a record of the proceedings? Allow me to assist in documenting them, Chui Wenqing offered. Soon, however, he felt as though he were staring down the barrel of a gun. Indeed, Xia Zhu had pressed a pistol against his head. Should he utter another word, she would not hesitate to end him. Xia Zhu was responsible for recording the events, and Chui Wenqing's audacity in attempting to usurp her role was tantamount to courting death. Let him perish for his impertinence, Xia Zhu remarked, with a playful smile. She did not fire. Her intention was merely to intimidate Chui Wenqing. He turned to Qing Chimo for help, insisting it was unintentional. Qing Chimo spoke, and Xia Zhu lowered her weapon. With a huff, she moved aside to jot down notes. You may follow behind, once I have dealt with them. We shall celebrate with drinks, Qing Chimo instructed. The two men nodded in agreement. Upon returning to the larger ship, they delivered a significant supply of ammunition. With countless rounds at their disposal, Qing Chimo ceased to restrain himself and commenced firing continuously. Half a month later, Niu Air and Chui Wenqing wore solemn expressions. How many have we eliminated? Niu Air inquired. 30,000, Chui Wenqing responded, his heart racing. What manner of being was Qing Chimo? To have slain so many and damaged numerous rifles in the process. At this rate, in 3 months, all the little brutes could be dealt with. Chui Wenqing nodded in agreement. Let us land. We should drive all those little brutes to the shoreline, for the convenience of our sovereign, Niu Air suggested. Chui Wenqing had no objections, and they boarded the small boat once more. My lady, we wish to make landfall and drive them all to the shore for the ease of our sovereign, Niu Air declared. Li Lizzie nodded thoughtfully. Go ahead. I shall share the burden of sin with the prince. You are free to kill as you wish. You may even set fire to the mountains, she responded. And I shall assist, Xia Zhu chimed in. Qing Chimo remained silent, bemused. This was no sin, but a merit of sorts. If he could eliminate 1 million, it would absolve him of the guilt of slaughtering a city. He felt increasingly at ease. Niu Air and Chui Wenqing turned to Qing Chimo, eager to hear his thoughts, as they wished to aid him further. Do as you see fit, Qing Chimo replied. Some matters cannot be forced. He needed to maintain an air of superiority. The two men acquiesced and departed. That day, they landed in Incheon. Our sovereign does not wish for our involvement. That is simply impossible, Niu Air asserted. The Marines shall comply, he added. Days later, Li Lizzie was incensed aboard the small boat. Where are the people? Where have they taken them? Those two scoundrels shall pay dearly upon their return, she exclaimed in frustration. Qing Chimo could only chuckle, realizing that these two were indeed causing chaos instead of assisting. To expedite the cleansing process, Chui Wenqing had already submitted a formal report to the court. Chapter 414. The four sisters of the Changsun family. Upon receiving the report, Wu Zetian smiled. At last, we have found them. No more enduring my sister's scolding, she mused to herself, as the maidservants nearby stifled giggles. Fully aware of how harshly Wu Zetian had been reprimanded, on a daily basis, she received at least one letter, sometimes several, from women who vowed to punish her upon her return home. The Empress was nearly brought to tears by the fright of it all. She had seen the wrath of those women firsthand. They were not merely threats. The last time heavy snow had caused her to be lost, she had been cornered by a group of women demanding retribution, forced to cook for half a year as penance. I must return to Gansu and personally explain the situation to my sisters, Wu Zetian resolved. This time, she would reclaim her dignity. There would be no excuse for them to chastise her. Your Majesty, for the time being, it would be best if you do not return, a maid suggested. Wu Zetian smiled ruefully. Indeed, in Chang'an, she basked in glory, but in Gansu, she would merely be the youngest sister, easily bullied by anyone. They will certainly criticize me for my governance. I cannot go back, Wu Zetian concluded. Issue a decree. The Wokou are disturbing the borders of the Tang. They must be eradicated, she ordered. The maidservant complied, taking the decree to relay the message. 6 months later, Qing Chimo returned. Do not inquire about the mundane details of life. What is lost is not worth discussing. In the Fufeng County villa, Qing Chimo reclined on the sofa, with Li Lizzie and Xia Zhu lounging beside him. Wu Zetian entered, carrying a platter of fruit. Upon seeing the two women, she hurriedly bowed. Greetings, my two elder sisters, Wu Zetian said. Li Lizzie opened her eyes. Why was there no one on the train? Is this how you govern as emperor? Humph. If you seek a beating, you need only say so, she retorted. Wu Zetian felt tears welling. It was too much to bear. After enduring heavy snowfall, the Tang was stretched thin, allowing ill-intentioned individuals to take advantage. Have we discovered the culprits? Xia Zhu inquired. Wu Zetian paused. We are still investigating. Wu Zetian whispered softly. Li Lizzie stood up, causing Wu Zetian to take a step back in fright. I can definitely find out, truly, Wu Zetian asserted. Li Lizzie chuckled, seizing Wu Zetian and forcing her onto the sofa, striking her lightly on the backside. Wu Zetian dared not cry out, covering her mouth with her hand. She understood that if she remained silent, Li Lizzie would soon relent, but the more she held back, the more exhilarated Li Lizzie became. Indeed, Li Lizzie soon grew bored with the play. What have you discovered? She inquired, releasing Wu Zetian. Wu Zetian discreetly wiped away a tear, relieved that Qing Chimo had not intervened on her behalf. The last time she had been punished, Qing Chimo had remarked that governing a nation was no easy task, which had only resulted in a harsher reprimand. Since then, he had never dared to speak for her again. Historically, Wu Zetian stood as one of the most tragic emperors. Her power soared to the heavens, allowing her to act as she pleased, yet upon returning home, her status remained diminished. The reason for this eluded her. She pondered whether it was due to Cheng Chumo's influence in the Tang dynasty. Ultimately, she came to a realization. Everyone in the Tang knew that Wu Zetian was merely the spokesperson for Cheng Chumo's family. Cheng Chumo's lineage was not that of Cheng Yaojin, but rather comprised a multitude of women. Those noble families had never aspired to claim the top position, as it was an impossibility. No one could rival Cheng Chumo's family, irrespective of status or background. Their roots ran deep, and even the former malcontents still acknowledged Cheng Chumo as their leader. Although the Tianyuan had returned to farming, their children had grown. At the mere call of Cheng Chumo, they would undoubtedly rally their offspring to fight alongside him once more. This was the concealed strength of Cheng Chumo, recognized by the noble families who tacitly accepted his family as the foremost in the Tang. Wu Zetian had relinquished power, much to the satisfaction of the noble families. Had it not been for the heavy snow, she would not have returned to Chang'an. The developmental trajectory of the Tang had already been established. Even a dog could sit upon the dragon throne without issue, merely serving as a mascot. This matter related to the Zhongsun family, Wu Zetian remarked. Li Lizzie was taken aback. Is it connected to the Zhongsun family? Perhaps to Zhongsun Wujia? Cheng Chumo frowned, pondering the implications of the Zhongsun empress's family. Could Zhongsun Wujia dare to act? He questioned. Wu Zetian shook her head, clarifying that it was not Zhongsun Wujia, as he had lost his real power. The Wang family had yet to be extinguished, and all the officials sent had returned empty-handed. Taiyuan, Wu Zetian stated. Cheng Chumo responded. The place where Li Yuan raised the banner of rebellion. The Zhongsun sisters, Wuxi, Wugo, Wuxia, and Wuqiu, Wu Zetian continued. Cheng Chumo understood. The Zhongsun empress had 3 sisters. While their relationships were fraught, they shared the same father. It appeared that a visit to Taiyuan was in order. Cheng Chumo asserted, the prince consort cannot go. Li Lizzie interjected. Cheng Chumo looked at her in confusion, unable to comprehend why he could not go. Is there truly a place in the Tang where you cannot tread? He mused. Brother-in-law, you absolutely cannot go. Taiyuan is unlike any other place, Li Lizzie insisted. Wu Zetian also urged Cheng Chumo to refrain from visiting Taiyuan. Cheng Chumo chuckled softly, choosing not to respond. He was determined to travel to Taiyuan. After spending a few days in Fufeng County, Li Lizzie and Xiazhu departed. They had been out for quite some time and were ready to return. Prince consort, you cannot go to Taiyuan, do you understand? It is truly not a suitable place for you, Li Lizzie warned. She understood Cheng Chumo well, but the prejudices there against him were substantial. Cheng Chumo smiled. Li Lizzie recognized she could not dissuade him. After the 2 women left, Cheng Chumo turned to Wu Zetian. Please provide me with the information on Taiyuan, he requested. Wu Zetian had long since prepared it. After perusing the documents, Cheng Chumo advised, you should take some time to relax and not remain cooped up in the palace. Wu Zetian felt a surge of joy. Her brother-in-law was as caring as ever. Understood, brother-in-law. I have a few matters to attend to before I return to Gansu. Wu Zetian replied. Cheng Chumo nodded. 3 days later, Cheng Chumo set off alone, riding a donkey. In this guise, he was unrecognizable. After eliminating many adversaries, his burdens had lightened considerably. He no longer exuded the same menacing aura as before. In Taiyuan, Cheng Chumo arrived in the bustling city, leading his donkey down the streets. Suddenly, he froze in place, spotting a woman who bore a striking resemblance to the Zhongsun empress. Accompanied by numerous handmaidens, she emerged from a fabric shop. Cheng Chumo stood motionless, lost in memories, his gaze fixed on that familiar, yet foreign figure. The woman appeared to be in her 40s and was exceptionally well preserved. Some might question why the Zhongsun empress's sisters were not under Li Shimin's arrangements. Cheng Chumo scoffed internally. Li Shimin was unworthy of such authority. Taiyuan was not within his jurisdiction, nor would he dare to return there. Had Li Shimin possessed control, the Zhongsun sisters would have entered the palace long ago. Their absence signified Li Shimin's lack of influence in that region. Sensing Cheng Chumo's gaze, the woman furrowed her brow, questioning why this old man was staring at her so intently. With a huff, she turned and walked away. As she distanced herself, Cheng Chumo laughed heartily. A mix of joy and sorrow. Chapter 415, Encountering Di Renjia. Cheng Chumo's smile faded as dozens of onlookers surrounded him, viewing him as a fool. He chuckled lightly, unbothered by their scrutiny, knowing well what lay in his heart. After departing, the crowd dispersed, and Cheng Chumo found his way to an inn. He ordered a few dishes, and soon, a waiter brought them to his table. Enjoy your meal, sir, the waiter said politely. Cheng Chumo handed over 10 coins and inquired, who was that woman earlier? The waiter, noticing the coins, felt a surge of delight. Leaning in close, he whispered, she is a famed personality from Jincheng, the Zhongsun empress's younger sister, Zhongsun Wuxia, the wife of the Zhong family. Cheng Chumo took note of this. Please prepare the finest room available, Cheng Chumo instructed. The waiter called out, 1 premium room. After the waiter departed, Cheng Chumo dined alone, savoring his meal. Once finished, he returned to his room, feeling a tangle of emotions as he lay on the intricately carved bed, gazing at the floral designs on the ceiling. You have a sister, Guanyin maid. Why did you never mention her to me? Cheng Chumo pondered, gradually drifting into slumber, dreaming of the Zhongsun empress. Falling in love with you is a mistake. In my dreams, we conversed extensively. Why did you not mention your sisters? Is your relationship with them strained? The dream felt so real. Empress Changsun addressed Ching Chumo's unspoken doubts. It is not that their relationship is poor. Rather, they cannot maintain contact. Empress Changsun is in this situation. And so is Changsun Wuji. Li Shimin once visited this place, which is also home to a renowned ancestral hall. At that time, Li Shimin wished to meet the sisters of Empress Changsun, but his attempts were in vain. Had he met them, another tale would have unfolded. This is where Li Yunlong engaged in battle, specifically the Jinsui Army's 358th Regiment. In the early morning, Cheng Chumo opened the window to gaze outside. A group of individuals caught his attention. He has arrived, Cheng Chumo remarked. The arrival was none other than Di Renjie. Empress Wu Zetian had commissioned him to investigate the railway case, and he had traced it to this location. A throng intercepted Di Renjie and his companions. The guards surrounding Di Renjie surged forward to shield him. Who dares to be disrespectful to Lord Di shall face immediate justice, declared a tall youth, drawing his sword. Heh, Di Renjie, I advise you to leave Taiyuan. This is not a place for your arrogance. A middle-aged man stepped forward from the crowd. Ching Chumo scrutinized the middle-aged man from his window. How audacious. Under heaven, all land belongs to the emperor. I am here on official orders to investigate. Who dares impede my progress? Di Renjie retorted. Ah, that woman from the court? Do not think we are unaware she is nothing but Cheng Chumo's lapdog. That treacherous minister is unworthy of our respect. Taiyuan is the true heart of the Tang dynasty, the middle-aged man asserted. Dare you reveal your name? Asked a young man beside Di Renjie, his eyes aflame with readiness for confrontation. Having traveled with Di Renjie throughout the realm, he was taken aback that someone would dare speak to Lord Di in such a manner. He was determined to eliminate this threat at the first opportunity. I am Zhang Jiajia, the middle-aged man declared. Let me be clear, your future is bleak. Even Wu Zetian does not dare to provoke us in Taiyuan. And you think you are worthy? Indeed, he had the audacity to speak thus. Taiyuan resembled a kingdom unto itself, filled with prominent figures. The Wang family held considerable power in Taiyuan, able to dominate other regions while remaining largely unchallenged themselves. Some of these influential figures even outranked Li Yuan. The young man was eager to charge at Zhang Jiajia, but Di Renjie raised a hand to halt him. Yuan Fong, do not act recklessly, Di Renjie cautioned, stepping forward with his hands clasped behind his back. Your family has maintained its lineage for centuries. I do not wish to see the Zhang family fall into complete decline. Withdraw. Di Renjie spoke with a calm demeanor. Zhang Jiajia's expression darkened. This Di Renjie was indeed arrogant and astute. He had approached Di Renjie with the intent to provoke, knowing that if Di Renjie struck first, he would have a means to retaliate. If Di Renjie refrained from violence, he would hold back as well. There was no justification for aggression. After all, Di Renjie commanded the Qian Wei, which Cheng Chumo regarded with disdain, as they had always safeguarded the imperial palace's security. After the Fufeng Jinbei army returned from Gansu, Wu Zetian had not disbanded them, directly replacing the 16 guards of the southern yards. The Qian Wei had similarly been restructured, now under Di Renjie's command. Outsiders were unaware that the Qian Wei was no longer merely palace guards. Their status had significantly diminished while their combat prowess had surged, as many former military generals had exited the Qian Wei, replaced by soldiers selected from the ranks. We, the Zhang family, wish to test our mettle. An elder approached in a horse-drawn carriage. A voice emerged from within. This was the family patriarch. Di Renjie recognized the visitor as Zhang Yudao and slightly bowed. I have the honor of meeting you, Elder Zhang, Di Renjie said. He had no choice but to pay his respects according to custom. The carriage curtain lifted, revealing an elderly man with graying hair, supported by maidservants as he disembarked. Did you just declare your intent to annihilate the Zhang family? Young man, do not let your fervor cloud your judgment, Zhang Yudao mocked. Di Renjie found himself at a loss for words, yet he could not show weakness, for he represented the imperial authority and Wu Zetian herself. Suddenly, several golden Tang coins were thrust before the elder, startling him. Cheng Chumo leapt from the second floor. He had to assist Di Renjie, particularly since Zhang Jiajia had insulted Wu Zetian by labeling her Cheng Chumo's pet. Cheng Chumo could endure slights against himself. There were many who disparaged him. Zhang Jiajia was not worth his attention. However, criticism of Wu Zetian was intolerable. Wu Zetian was impeccable in her dealings. She was not Cheng Chumo's dog, but rather his wife. How audacious! Zhang Jiajia thundered. Cheng Chumo responded with a swift slap, sending Zhang Jiajia spinning and causing him to spit blood before collapsing. Cheng Chumo then turned to Zhang Yudao. In old age, do not presume upon your years. If you wish to live long, I can assist, Cheng Chumo said coolly. Zhang Yudao remained silent. The Zhang family members drew their weapons, charging at Cheng Chumo, who merely smiled coldly. He flicked his wrist, sending coins flying. Several members of the Zhang family fell lifelessly to the ground. Do not move, Zhang Yudao warned, his voice icy. The elder recognized the gravity of the situation. He realized this gray-haired man was not to be trifled with, particularly as the coins struck the ground, reminding him of a legendary figure, Long Gui. It turned out to be Cheng Chumo's master, Mr. Long. My apologies. Zhang Yudao clasped his hands in respect. His status was elevated, for Long Gui's standing exceeded his own. He regarded Cheng Chumo as an extension of Long Gui. Cheng Chimo neither confirmed nor denied this, regarding Zhang Yudao with cool indifference. Is your Zhang family so arrogant? I wonder if you can withstand the onslaught of special forces, Cheng Chimo remarked. This was no idle threat. Upon arriving, he had heard tales of the Zhang family's hubris, yet he was astonished by their audacity to insult both Wu Zetian and himself. The elder's expression remained unchanged, but internally he was startled. He could not contend with special forces, yet he was unafraid of Cheng Chimo, believing he would not concern himself with this matter. However, he feared the special forces. If they were to cleanse the Taiyuan families, no one could resist. This was also the reason they dared not rebel. Chapter 416, Chang Sun Wu's Hardships. They say Cheng Chimo lacks virtue. It seems he learned from Mr. Long. Our Zhang family has served the Tang dynasty well. Countless families have contributed to the empire. Does Cheng Chimo dare to eradicate them all? Zhang Yudao chuckled. Gather all families, as the saying goes. The law does not punish the many. What is there to fear? Cheng Chimo replied. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yudao could no longer maintain his composure, glaring at Long Gui. Even Di Renjia was taken aback. This elder was indeed ruthless. Do not assume you hold privilege in Taiyuan. Refraining from action does not signify fear, Cheng Chimo asserted. Now, depart, Cheng Chimo added. Zhang Yudao cast a lingering glance at Long Gui before leaving, convinced that if he uttered another word, Long Gui would surely retaliate. This was not mere speculation. He could sense the killing intent. When you have time, do visit the Zhang family. The old man would be honored to host you. Zhang Yudao said with a smile. In the realm of adulthood, affairs often appear to escalate into conflict, yet they are merely tests of resolve, with individuals swiftly donning smiles once the moment passes. The loss of a few lives is trivial in the eyes of such people. Cheng Chimo smiled. Very well, he replied, as if the previous incident had never transpired. Upon returning to his family, Zhang Yudao convened a gathering of the elders. The court has already traced matters back to Taiyuan. What shall we do? He inquired. The others displayed indifference, accustomed as they were to arrogance, having weathered far greater storms. When Li Shimin had come here to curry favor, he even constructed temples for them. What was Di Renjia to them? Did he truly think he could contend with the Zhang family? If only Zhang Shigui had succeeded in capturing Chang'an, they would not find themselves in this predicament, remarked one of the elders. Zhang Yudao frowned. Be cautious with your words. The elder quickly fell silent. Di Renjia is not a concern, but Long Gui, Cheng Chimo's master, poses a greater challenge, Zhang Yudao stated. The elders were taken aback. Long Gui is here? The family had never dared to offend a sage, for the reason was simple. They could not survive the wrath of such beings. They feared retribution. Now, do not be alarmed. We pose no threat to Long Gui, nor to Cheng Chimo. As long as Long Gui remains passive, Cheng Chimo will not act against Taiyuan. I have already extended an invitation to Long Gui to visit our family. Let us prepare accordingly, Zhang Yudao declared. The elders chuckled, relieved. That simplifies matters. As long as we appease Long Gui, everything else will fall into place. Who should we send to invite him? One elder asked. Zhang Yudao pondered briefly. Let Wuxia go, he decided. The elders had no objections. Changsun Wuxia was regarded as the family's auspicious charm. Though her husband had met an untimely end, that afternoon, Changsun Wuxiao arrived at the inn, her expression filled with displeasure. Why should we assist someone who bullies us? A maidservant remarked. Changsun Wuxia offered a wry smile, understanding the elder's intentions, an appeal to sentiment. This was also one of the reasons the Zhang family felt untroubled by Cheng Chimo, for the sister of the Empress Changsun was present. Entering the room where Cheng Chimo resided, she softly asked, Is Mr. Long here? Cheng Chimo opened the door and, upon seeing Changsun Wuxia, was momentarily taken aback. Changsun Wuxia was equally stunned. Was the white-haired elder before her truly Long Gui? Why did he regard her with such compassion, affection, and tenderness? Mr. Long. Changsun Wuxia finally spoke. Cheng Chimo regained his composure, inviting her in. You bear an uncanny resemblance, he remarked. No. The family head has sent me to invite you to the Zhang family feast, she replied. I prefer solitude and will not partake in the festivities. You may return. Cheng Chimo said, closing the door. He regarded Changsun Wuxia as one might regard the Empress Changsun herself, devoid of ulterior motives. There was no substitute for the Empress. None could replace her. Staring at the closed door, Changsun Wuxia was taken aback. Is this how it is? Not even a shred of courtesy. She raised her hand to knock, then, with a bitter smile, turned to leave, unsure of how to express herself. The refusal weighed heavily. What more could she say? It was her first experience of rejection, marking the beginning of her decline. In the past, many had honored her presence. For instance, when she encountered Cui Wenqing, a mere word from her had summoned him instantly. This recent setback made her realize a painful truth. The radiance of her sister was no longer hers. Upon departing the inn, Changsun Wuxia wept. Sister, are you truly gone? She murmured to herself. Upon returning to the Zhang family and explaining her predicament, the elders frowned. Casting a fleeting glance at Changsun Wuxia, it seemed she had lost her significance. Their previous invitation to Li Jun, the head of the Longxi Li family, in the name of Changsun Wuxia had ended in failure, revealing much about their waning influence. Has my sister fared well? Changsun Wuxiao asked, biting her lip and lowering her head, fearful of hearing ill tidings. She passed away a year ago, an elder replied. There was no need for concealment. Tomorrow, I shall return to my maternal home, Changsun Wuxia declared. The revelation of her sister's passing left her despondent, wishing to avoid lingering at the Zhang family's estate. The Zhang family is currently embroiled in turmoil. Leaving now would invite ridicule, and the Changsun family would not permit your return, the elder remarked coldly. Devoid of the previous warmth, Changsun Wuxia departed in silence, retreating to her chamber to weep bitterly. The maidservant outside the door felt a rising anxiety. Having accompanied the young lady for over 20 years, she had witnessed her endure a life of hardship. The wedding had been a simple affair. For the Zhang family feared offending the Empress Changsun. Everyone knew she had been raised by her uncle. If her life at home had been satisfactory, why would she have gone to her uncle's house? That she had married at all was a stroke of fortune. At that time, who dared provoke the Empress Changsun? No noble family would take such a risk, and neither would the Zhang family. Although the Empress never voiced her discontent, it was understood without needing to be said. The maidservant resolved to assist her mistress. Arriving at the inn, she gently knocked on the door. Is Mr. Long here? Cheng Chumo opened the door. Come in and sit. He invited. The maidservant entered, and, upon crossing the threshold, knelt before him. You are Mr. Cheng Chumo's master, and Cheng Chumo is the husband of the Empress Changsun. My young lady is the sister of the Empress. I implore you to assist her, she beseeched. Cheng Chumo was puzzled. Changsun Wuxia requires assistance? Speak slowly, he replied. The maidservant relayed the situation to him. After listening, Cheng Chumo's demeanor remained unchanged. Sir, my young lady shares a close bond with the Empress. They used to exchange letters regularly, but after a heavy snowfall years ago, communication ceased. I beg you, please help her. The maidservant implored. Very well. Consider it a favor for Guanin's maid, Cheng Chumo replied. The maidservant was taken aback. Guanin's maid? Is this not the master's apprentice's wife? Although she was bewildered, she refrained from questioning further, knowing that a maidservant should speak little. Chapter 417. To the Zhang family let us depart, Cheng Chumo said once more. The maidservant rose, leading him back to the Zhang family. Upon reaching the entrance, she hurried to announce their arrival. However, she did not inform the Zhang family directly, but rather sought out Changsun Wuxia's room. Changsun Wuxia lay weeping on her bed. The maidservant entered and assisted her upright. My lady, do not cry. Mr. Long has arrived. We must go greet him, she urged. Changsun Wuxia was momentarily taken aback by the sudden news. The maidservant, eager and determined, helped her along. Upon stepping outside, she grasped Changsun Wuxia's hand and hurried forth. At this moment, it was imperative not to neglect Mr. Long, otherwise, the young lady would face an arduous future. Upon reaching the grand entrance, Cheng Chumo stood with hands clasped behind his back, surveying the Zhang family's imposing gate. How audacious, he remarked. Numerous transgressions adorned the entrance, and while no one had yet called them to account, should the court decide to investigate, the Zhang family would face exile as a clan. Sir, you have arrived, Changsun Wuxiao exclaimed, her face alight with joy as she gazed at Cheng Chumo. He locked eyes with her, noting the striking resemblance in her gaze, and nodded gently. Please, come inside, she urged. Cheng Chumo ambled towards the Zhang residence. Arriving at Changsun Wuxia's modest courtyard, which was tastefully adorned, he found it quite pleasing. A maidservant went to prepare tea while Cheng Chumo settled on a stone bench. This mulberry tree is splendid, he noted. The Empress Changsun also has an affinity for mulberry trees. I enjoy making my own clothes, Changsun Wuxia replied. Cheng Chumo smiled lightly as the maidservant approached with tea. After taking a sip, he inquired, Did Cui Wenqing send you this tea? Changsun Wuxia looked at him with admiration, acknowledging him as a man of vast experience and knowledge. Yes, it has been many years, she confirmed. Just as they were enjoying their tea, Zhang Yudao entered the courtyard. Wuxia, you ought to have informed your uncle of Mr. Long's arrival. We cannot afford to slight him. He chided, casting an apologetic glance at Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo regarded him with indifference, choosing not to respond. Changsun Wuxia felt a sense of vindication. It served him right for having bullied her. Mr. Long, on the other hand, seemed unperturbed by Zhang Yudao's presence. Wuxiao and I share a bond. I have come to visit her. Is there something you require? If not, please do not disturb me, Cheng Chumo stated, his tone devoid of any formality. Zhang Yudao, unfazed, seemed to deduce that Mr. Long had come to defend Changsun Wuxia. Wuxia, do accompany the gentleman. I shall prepare for the evening banquet. I hope you will attend, sir, he suggested. Cheng Chumo expressed his disinterest in attending, observing the tension on Changsun Wuxia's face, knowing she would have to navigate the Zhang family's expectations in the future. Very well, he assented, prompting Zhang Yudao to leave, satisfied that Mr. Long had accepted the family's goodwill. The maidservant stifled a laugh as she cast a glance at her mistress before departing. I feel somewhat fatigued, Cheng Chumo remarked, having had a restless night. Changsun Wuxiao blushed as she led him into her room. You shall sleep in my chamber, she insisted, for it would be improper for him to occupy the maidservant's quarters. Cheng Chumo made himself comfortable on the bed, closing his eyes. Changsun Wuxia exited quietly. My lady, why do you not stay with the gentleman? Such an opportunity is rare. The maidservant urged. Changsun Wuxia's cheeks flushed as she shot a reproachful glance at the maid. Do not speak foolishly, she replied, yearning for freedom from the Zhang household. Much like her elder sister, tears welled up at the thought of her sister. My lady, do not weep. Do you know who can call the Empress Changsun Guanyin maid? The maidservant asked, seeking confirmation of a suspicion. Cheng Chimo, unbeknownst to him, had his identity exposed by those very words. Only two individuals could utter such a name, Emperor Taizong and the Divine General. Changsun Wuxiao recounted this knowledge, acquired through correspondence with her sister. The maidservant's lips curled into a smile, growing more certain of her suspicions. The occupant of the room was likely none other than the Divine General, Cheng Chimo. My lady, look at Mr. Cheng. Though his hair is white, his face bears no wrinkles, the maidservant noted. Isn't that typical of those with extraordinary abilities? Changsun Wuxiao mused. Not delving deeper into the matter, the maidservant dared not speak outright, as confirmation was still pending, contemplating how to elevate her mistress's standing with Mr. Long. She thought about the possibilities, whether as Mr. Long or Cheng Chimo, he possessed the means to liberate her mistress from her plight. My lady, you should return to Mr. Cheng. If the head of the household discovers you absent, he will be displeased and may scold me, the maidservant urged, feigning tears. Changsun Wuxiao hastily comforted her, for the maidservant had endured much alongside her. Do not cry. I shall not allow them to mistreat you, she promised, her voice growing softer. Yet, she herself held little power to protect the maidservant. I shall go in, she finally declared. The maidservant assumed her mistress had reached a decision. Changsun Wuxiao approached the bedside. Sir, are you asleep? She inquired softly. Not yet, Cheng Chimo replied. Is there a need for a maidservant to serve you with tea? My maid has been with me for quite some time. Allowing her to attend to you would be a suitable arrangement, Changsun Wuxiao suggested. Outside, the maidservant listened intently, her eyes turning red. She thought how foolish her mistress was. There was no way she would abandon her. I do not require her, Cheng Chimo stated. Undeterred, Changsun Wuxiao pressed on, recognizing this might be her only chance to rescue her maidservant from her dire circumstances. Sir, I will give you money if you take my maid away from the Zhang family, she offered. Cheng Chimo sat up, amused by the proposition. Pray tell, how much can you offer me? He asked. Changsun Wuxiao rose and retrieved a small box from the cabinet. Inside lay a considerable sum, approximately 1 million, alongside some jewelry. To one unaccustomed to wealth, it was a significant amount. Yet, to Cheng Chimo, it was but a trifling sum. He picked up a hairpin, asking, This is a gift from your sister, may I keep it? This hairpin was sent to me by my sister, Changsun Wuxiao explained. Cheng Chimo recognized it as the 9-leaf golden hairpin he had gifted to the Empress Changsun. Do you know who gifted you this hairpin? He inquired. It was you, Mr. Cheng. My sister said she had many, so she gifted me one. Isn't it lovely? She responded. Cheng Chimo understood now. The Guanyin maid had given it to spare her sister from hardship. Though the hairpin held little monetary value, it possessed significance in Gansu, where women would undoubtedly recognize its worth. Are you well here? Cheng Chimo asked. Not well, the maidservant interjected as she entered the room. Fearing her mistress would reveal too much, the maid was utterly unafraid of her. Sir, you may not be aware that the Zhang family married my lady solely to enhance their own prestige. Shortly after the wedding, the man passed away, and our lady has endured immense hardships over the years. They even obstruct her return to the Changsun family, insisting she accompany significant guests. When she expressed her reluctance, they reported her to the Changsun family, claiming they failed to raise their daughter properly. The head of the family reprimanded her harshly in a letter. Once, when she was quite inebriated, had it not been for Cui Wenqing's intervention, she would have been taken away by the Wang family. The maid recounted. Cheng Chimo narrowed his eyes. Regardless of how one views Changsun Wuxiao, she is still the sister of Guanyin. The audacity of the Zhang family to bully her demonstrates their utter disregard for Guanyin and for Cheng Chimo himself. It seems we need Detective D. Renjia to gather some evidence, Cheng Chimo remarked. The maid gazed at him with admiration. This was a true master, decisive in action. One could tell he would assist his lady. She earnestly hoped her mistress would escape her plight. I wish to sleep now. You may leave. I will resolve this matter, Cheng Chimo instructed. Changsun Wuxiao rose and walked towards the door, and the maid complied. It was evident that her mistress had a few loose screws. It seemed only through administering medicine could she make her mistress understand. Without delay, she set to work. Sir, please rest. I shall prepare a meal, the maid said. Cheng Chimo slept for 2 hours before rising. The maid had already prepared the meal and entered the room with the dishes. Sir, you should dine with my lady, she suggested. Cheng Chimo nodded and sat down to eat. The maid stepped outside to summon Changsun Wuxiao. Changsun Wuxiao was dozing at the table. My lady, it is time to eat. You can sleep again afterward, the maid urged. Oh, Changsun Wuxiao replied, rising to follow the maid into the room and sitting down across from Cheng Chimo, bowing her head to eat. Cheng Chimo took a bite of the food. Feeling perplexed within, he had discerned what kind of poison it was. To be precise, it was not poison but an aphrodisiac. Changsun Wuxiao remained unaware that her little maid had betrayed her. She ate heartily, while the maid occasionally assisted her with the food. My lady, do eat more. The more you consume, the less pain you will feel later, the maid encouraged. After eating their fill, the maid swiftly cleared the table and exited, closing the door behind her, never daring to meet Cheng Chimo's gaze. Cheng Chimo mused to himself that this maid was indeed clever. Only such a maid could protect Changsun Wuxiao. He glanced at Changsun Wuxiao, noting that her appearance and demeanor bore a resemblance to Empress Changsun. Yet her intellect was not on par with hers. They were not on the same level. Changsun Wuxiao, blushing, moved to Cheng Chimo's side. Gazing at him with a dazed expression, wrapping her arms around his waist and leaning her head against his chest. Cheng Chimo produced a silver needle and pricked it against her neck. Chang Sun Wuxiao's small hand had already slipped inside Cheng Chimo's clothing. A sharp pain in her neck caused her to topple over, unconscious. Cheng Chimo laid her on the bed and took out several silver needles, beginning to practice acupuncture, hoping to see if he could neutralize the drug. The last needle pricked her fingertip, and a few drops of dark blood flowed out. Soon, Chang Sun Wuxiao stirred awake, bewildered to find herself in nothing but a thin nightgown. Cheng Chimo was washing his hands. "Ah," she exclaimed. The maid entered the room with her head bowed, secretly thinking how impressive Cheng Chimo was. After so long, her lady would no longer have a good life ahead of her. Approaching the bedside, Chang Sun Wuxiao wished to express her anger. "My lady, please do not be upset, otherwise, you will experience pain tonight. Rest for a moment," the maid advised, tenderly covering Chang Sun Wuxiao with a blanket. Chang Sun Wuxiao glared at the maid, at a loss for words, on the verge of tears. A maid who was like a sister to her had delivered her into another's bed. She could not comprehend it. However, the maid was indifferent to her thoughts. Escaping the Zhang family was of utmost importance. There were no good people among the Zhangs. "My lady, you must be obedient and follow the sir. You truly cannot remain here any longer," the maid insisted. Chang Sun Wuxiao wept, "But it cannot be done this way. Perhaps due to psychological effects." She felt a sharp pain in her lower body. "I am in pain," Chang Sun Wuxiao lamented. The maid hurriedly wiped the sweat from her forehead. "It will be better next time. Just bear with it, my lady. I will prepare hot water for you to bathe later," she soothed. Chang Sun Wuxiao nodded tearfully. "The first time was without experience. Next time will be different," Cheng Chimo remarked. His inaugural attempt at acupuncture had been inexperienced. Experiencing some side effects after detoxification was quite normal. However, to Chang Sun Wuxiao, these words did not hold the same meaning. She thought to herself how unfortunate she was. How much suffering must one endure to feel such pain? She gazed at her head full of white hair, questioning how it had come to this. Pulling the blanket over her head, Cheng Chimo stepped out of the room. He walked beneath a mulberry tree, where a chair awaited him. Sitting down, he closed his eyes, listening to the rustle of leaves. "Mr. Long, the banquet is ready," a member of the Zhang family announced as he approached the tree. "The banquet is meant for the evening. What is there to eat now?" "I will take Wuxiao later," Cheng Chimo replied, not lifting his eyelids. The Zhang family member, not daring to delay, exited the small courtyard to report to Zhang Yudao. "Did you say Long Gui exited from Wuxiao's room? Did you also hear her scream?" Zhang Yudao inquired. The family member nodded. "You may go," he instructed. After the family member left, Zhang Yudao furrowed his brow and then chuckled. "Even a master cannot escape the ordinary," Zhang Yudao mused. "Father, Zhang Jiajie began. Zhang Yudao shot him a fierce glare, causing Zhang Jiajie to swallow his words. "Abandon your thoughts. Long Gui's interest in that jinx is fortuitous. Do not instigate trouble," Zhang Yudao warned sternly. He dared not allow his son to offend Long Gui. Zhang Jiajie's face twisted with dissatisfaction as he realized that Chang Sun Wuxiao, once within his grasp, was now snatched away by Long Gui. As he watched Chang Sun Wuxiao's status plummet, he anticipated that once this matter was resolved, he would be able to claim her. "Father, I cannot accept this," Zhang Jiajie protested. Zhang Yudao disregarded his son's sentiments. In the face of family interests, his son's desires were insignificant. "Prepare yourself. I will invite Mr. Long to the banquet tonight," Zhang Yudao commanded. Zhang Jiajie exited the room. Once outside, his face was set in a fierce expression, his gaze icy. He had come to despise Cheng Chimo. At that moment, Cheng Chimo was penning a letter, finishing it before handing it to the maid. "Deliver this to Di Renjia," he instructed, producing a gold coin to give to the maid. The maid complied and exited. At the inn, Di Renjia squinted upon receiving the letter. "Yuan Fong. Is that person Long Gui? What are your thoughts on this matter?" Di Renjia asked. "I am merely observing," Yuan Fong replied. Di Renjia's expression darkened. "I asked you if that person is Long Gui," he reiterated. Yuan Fong nearly choked on his own words. "Is standing not sufficient? Can one not observe while reclining? Is it of any consequence? I am quite likely unable to defeat him," Yuan Fong remarked. Di Renjia ceased his inquiries. The other party was correct. It mattered little whether or not the situation was trivial. What was of utmost importance was how to address the matters entrusted by His Majesty, having just arrived in Taiyuan. Encountering such issues was daunting. If not handled properly, his progress would be severely hindered. This was a warning from the Zhang family, as well as from Taiyuan itself. If nothing else can be uncovered, let us investigate the tax revenues," Di Renjia stated. Yuan Fong concurred, for tax records were indeed easy to scrutinize. They would assess the Zhang family's establishments and estimate the taxes based on their quantity. Should the tax revenues fall short, the Zhang family would be condemned. Chapter 419, Confrontation Night. Cheng Chimo attended a banquet with the two ladies. The gait of Chang Sun Wuxiao was rather intriguing, causing the Zhang family members to wear expressions of discomfort. Was this not overly conspicuous? "Does the young lady still hurt?" a maid inquired softly. "Yes, it pains terribly. Even walking is a struggle," Chang Sun Wuxiao replied, her maid displaying evident concern. Cheng Chimo was left speechless. Such dramatics were quite excessive. Upon entering the grand hall, many approached Cheng Chimo to offer their greetings, not only members of the Zhang family, but also those from the Wang family. A representative from the Wang family stepped forward. "Mr. Long, greetings," the Wang family member said with a smile. Cheng Chumo cast him a fleeting glance. As the saying goes, one does not strike a smiling face. The Wang family's maneuver was clever. Addressing their crisis through Long Gui was indeed the most effective approach. How is your mother? Cheng Chumo inquired. A burst of laughter erupted from Changsun Wuxia, unable to suppress her mirth at such a bold remark. The entire assembly stared at Cheng Chumo in astonishment, while the Wang family member's face turned a deep shade of crimson. Cheng Chumo bypassed him, heading toward his designated seat. Did the Wang family wish for reconciliation? Who did they think they were? Having committed treason, they hoped to extricate themselves unscathed? Even fleeing abroad would be of no avail. The Wang family had nowhere to hide. Although the imperial forces had not yet entered Taiyuan to apprehend them, the entire city was under lockdown, closely monitored. Cheng Chumo took his seat, and Changsun Wuxia, along with her maid, sought to sit beside him. A member of the Zhang family approached. Sister-in-law, you should occupy that seat. He gestured toward a spot further back. The maid glared angrily at the Zhang family member, while Changsun Wuxia bit her lip. Sit, Cheng Chumo commanded in an irrefutable tone. Changsun Wuxia felt a surge of joy and took her seat happily, casting a triumphant glance at the Zhang family. The maid felt a sense of quiet vindication. This was what it meant to live alongside such a person, where one would not suffer indignities. That remark about his mother was truly powerful. Furthermore, the seat the Zhang family indicated was less than that of a guest. The Zhang family member appeared troubled. Sir, your actions seem to deviate from propriety, he remarked. This was a deliberate affront. They dared not tarnish Long Gui's reputation but aimed to sully Changsun Wuxia's. The guests in the grand hall regarded Changsun Wuxia with significant implications in their gazes. She too sensed the unusual tension and hastily lowered her head, feeling disheartened. Ever since her marriage into the Zhang family, she had been burdened with the label of a husband killer. Today, she would undoubtedly be adorned with the title of a harlot. Cheng Chumo's gaze turned icy as he addressed the Zhang family member. Are you aware that Wuxia is the younger sister of Empress Changsun? Although the Empress is no longer with us, do not forget about Princess Chang'e or Li Changqian, Cheng Chumo stated casually. The speaker may have been indifferent, but the listener was acutely aware. Indeed, the Empress Changsun was no longer present. How would her children react to the mistreatment of their aunt? Regardless, Changsun Wuxia was also Li Changqian's concubine, a bond that could not be severed. What if Li Changqian chose to defend her? There were few princes in the Tang dynasty, and Li Changqian was undoubtedly the foremost among them. Though he was not the crown prince, he commanded the East Palace Guard. Wu Zetian's trust in Li Changqian was evident in her granting him such authority, a matter not easily articulated. Zhang Yudao felt a stirring in his heart. Cheng Chumo's mention reminded him that Changsun Wuxia's worth extended far beyond mere appearances. An elder named Wang Gang, adjacent to Zhang Yudao, felt a jolt of realization. He mused about his advancing age. If Changsun Wuxia were to lend her support, perhaps his family's troubles could be resolved. Pleas from others might yield little fruit. But if Li Changqian approached Cheng Chumo regarding the matter, it would surely succeed. Everyone was aware of the rapport between Li Changqian and Cheng Chumo, turning rebellion into a rescue mission, compelling all officials to acquiesce. Do not be foolish. Wuxia is to sit here, Zhang Yudao interjected, directly relinquishing the seat of the hostess. Do you not comprehend? She will sit here, Cheng Chumo asserted. Zhang Yudao smiled at Changsun Wuxia. If she were to converse with Li Changqian, her value would undeniably surpass that of Long Gui. The plan had shifted. Changsun Wuxia could not be entrusted to Long Gui. She appeared troubled. Cheng Chumo produced a gold coin, which spun between his fingers. The grand hall fell into a profound silence, all eyes fixated on the coin. It was not the coin's worth that captivated them, but rather the fear of it hitting the ground. They had heard tales of the Fufeng Sanxiao incident. A coin falling could spell doom. Cheng Chumo's commanding presence stirred a long-buried competitive spirit within Zhang Yudao. He grasped a feather fan from the table and began to wave it gently. No one dared utter a word. The atmosphere in the grand hall became palpably oppressive, as though breathing itself was a transgression. Cheng Chumo flicked his wrist, launching the gold coin towards Zhang Yudao. Zhang Yudao tracked its trajectory, summoning all his strength to swing the fan as the coin neared his face. The fan, made of unknown material, astonishingly deflected the coin, leaving only the frame intact as feathers scattered. Mr. Long possesses remarkable skill, Zhang Yudao remarked with a grin, placing the fan's frame on the table while concealing his trembling hand within his sleeve, the impact leaving his arm numb. Cheng Chumo cast a dispassionate glance at Zhang Yudao, producing another gold coin that began to roll between his fingers. The oppressive atmosphere intensified, and all held their breath, gazing at Zhang Yudao. Zhang Yudao felt pinned down. He could not afford to back down at this moment. Just as he prepared to speak, swoosh. Cheng Chumo launched another gold coin, this time with greater force. Zhang Yudao raised the fan's frame to block it. With a resounding clash, the fan frame splintered, and blood oozed from between Zhang Yudao's fingers. He looked at Cheng Chumo in terror. Cheng Chumo paid him no mind, as the gold coin continued to roll between his fingers. Serve the dishes, Zhang Yudao commanded. He knew he could not withstand a third gold coin. He had to divert attention with the request for food. Cheng Chumo had no intentions of letting him off so easily, launching yet another coin. The coin embedded itself into the table. Zhang Yudao dared not express his anger, fearing that Cheng Chumo might retaliate against him. Well, both of you truly are extraordinary individuals, Wang Gang remarked. As Zhang Yudao attempted to mediate, Cheng Chumo suppressed his anger. Cheng Chimo chose not to engage with him nor to dispute the title of master. A true master is indifferent to titles. Cheng Chimo had proven himself a master through his battle with the elder from Guantou, while Zhang Yudao was not worthy of such a title. He could only be regarded as an elder. Everyone has seen enough of song and dance. This time, I shall present something different. A puppet show, Wang Gang declared. Clapping his hands, a group of men and women entered, each holding a puppet. After bowing, they began their performance. Changsun Wuxiao watched intently. As the puppets appeared almost lifelike and even seemed to speak. How can they talk without moving their mouths? It's truly marvelous, a maid remarked. Changsun Wuxiao was equally puzzled and turned to Cheng Chimo for answers. Ventriloquism, Cheng Chimo explained. Indeed, Mr. Long is quite knowledgeable, Wang Gang complimented. Zhang Yudao beckoned to Zhang Jiajia, whispering a few words in his ear. Meanwhile, the maids began serving dishes. Changsun Wuxia hesitated to eat, fearing it might be poisoned. Cheng Chimo took a few bites and remarked, "Not bad. My sister cooks quite well, doesn't she?" Changsun Wuxia said in a tone meant for only two to hear. Cheng Chimo was taken aback and looked at her. Changsun Wuxia blinked, and he bitterly smiled, realizing that her astuteness meant she had already deduced the truth. The golden hairpin she had shown him was her means of confirmation. "Were you merely pretending to be in pain?" Cheng Chimo inquired. Changsun Wuxia's cheeks flushed, and she offered no reply. How could she not feign it to prevent others from suspecting? She was no fool. She knew very well where she felt pain. Cheng Chimo stood and extended his hand to her. Changsun Wuxia guessed his intentions. Her sister had mentioned that Cheng Chimo was formidable. After a moment's hesitation, she took his hand. This was her only chance to escape her plight with the maids. Cheng Chimo led her to the center of the hall. Yuzhong family possess remarkable courage to insult me, Cheng Chimo. While I stand, you dare to remain seated, he stated calmly. This declaration was like thunder striking the ground. Zhang Yudao stared at Cheng Chimo, his heart trembling. A person needs a name. A tree needs a shadow. Cheng Chimo was a butcher. He quickly rose. And all in the hall stood, none daring to meet Cheng Chimo's gaze. Wang Gang trembled visibly. Cheng Chimo was not Long Gui, he was Cheng Chimo. He had thought Long Gui more fearsome, but upon seeing Cheng Chimo, they lacked even the courage to look up at him. Among the noble families of the Great Tang, none dared confront Cheng Chimo. They could be arrogant, for they had patrons in the court to support them. Cheng Chimo had no one above him. This was the stark difference. Today, I do not wish to settle accounts with you. Someone else will address that matter. I merely wish to convey this. Do not challenge my bottom line with your ignorance, or you shall face dire consequences, Cheng Chimo warned, preparing to leave with Changsun Wuxia. Have you not yet written the divorce decree? Changsun Wuxia asked. Ha ha ha, divorce decree? Ask them who wishes to die. Cheng Chimo laughed heartily. The crowd in the hall lowered their heads even further. Changsun Wuxia gazed at Cheng Chimo, finally understanding why her sister always praised him. The three departed from the Zhang family. Zhang Yudao slumped back into his seat, realizing that all his prestige paled in comparison to a single word from Cheng Chimo. Wang Gang slowly sat down, his expression icy. A grave situation had arisen. Cheng Chimo had personally come to Taiyuan. What would become of the Wang family now? Brother Zhang, I do not wish to sit idly by, Wang Gang stated. Zhang Yudao looked at him, lacking the courage to voice the same sentiment. If Cheng Chimo continued to masquerade as Long Gui, Zhang Yudao would not fear him. However, he was genuinely afraid of Cheng Chimo. The latter was capable of murder. At the inn, Cheng Chimo returned to his quarters with the two women. Changsun Wuxia spun around with outstretched arms, exclaiming, I am free. I am finally free. As she twirled, tears of joy streamed down her face. The maid also wept with joy, secretly admiring her mistress. She was still uncertain, but realized that her lady had indeed made a decision. Cheng Chimo sat in a chair, observing Changsun Wuxia. Where do you wish to go? He asked. Changsun Wuxia turned to him, her excitement fading into a look of confusion. Do you wish to shirk responsibility? She questioned. She had nowhere else to turn. The world could betray her, but Cheng Chimo would not. She was certain of that. Her sister had told her that if there were matters she could not resolve, she could seek Cheng Chimo's help, for he could assist with anything. Cheng Chimo understood her thoughts and gazed deeply at her. I need to prepare to flee, he declared. Both women were taken aback. How could he be so imposing just moments ago and now speak of fleeing? Cheng Chimo did not wish to explain. He had come alone and would not presume to confront Taiyuan single-handedly. That would be folly. He approached the bed and began to pack. The two women retrieved their bundles from beneath the bed. The maid had prepared everything in advance. Where are the mountains? Cheng Chimo inquired. Taiyuan is surrounded by many mountains, with countless peaks. The maid casually pointed in a direction. Change into your clothes, Cheng Chimo instructed. The maid quickly produced 2 sets of black attire. Turn around. Changsun Wuxia commanded. How can I change with you here? Cheng Chimo replied, remaining still as he watched. With no other option, Changsun Wuxia reluctantly changed in front of him. Once they had donned their new garments, the three slipped away under the cover of night. Before departing, Cheng Chimo approached the innkeeper. Run, this place will catch fire. He warned. The innkeeper looked puzzled, but Cheng Chimo offered him a gold coin and said, life and death are fated. Perhaps we shall meet again. With that, he left. As they exited the city, Cheng Chimo's donkey ambled over. He mounted the donkey, leading the two women toward the woods. Changsun Wuxia was initially thrilled. It was her first time out of the city in many years. As a good luck charm, she was not allowed to leave. However, her excitement soon waned. I can't walk anymore. Can I ride the donkey? She pleaded, reaching for the donkey's tail. The maid quickly intervened. Miss, you cannot pull it. You might get kicked. Changsun Wuxia pouted, too tired to speak. They ventured into the woods, meandering through the night, until Cheng Chumo finally found a suitable spot. He retrieved a tent from the bundle on the donkey's back. After setting it up, he stepped inside, followed by Changsun Wuxia without a second thought. The maid followed them inside, while the donkey sought a place to rest. Within the tent, Cheng Chumo produced a luminous pearl. Allow me to hold the pearl for you, said Zhangsun Wuxia. Women have an irresistible attraction to such treasures. The maid spread out a fur blanket, and Cheng Chumo reclined upon it, closing his eyes. The tent was small. The three of them had to squeeze closely together to fit. After placing the pearl securely, Zhangsun Wuxia lay down, while the maid sat in the corner. Zhangsun Wuxia inched closer to Cheng Chumo. You should lie here. How can you sleep sitting up? She said. The maid then joyfully lay down. She covered all three with the blanket. Zhangsun Wuxia lay on her side, gazing at Cheng Chumo's profile. The maid nudged Zhangsun Wuxia gently. Zhangsun Wuxia found herself nestled in Cheng Chumo's embrace. Miss, just sleep like this. It's too cramped, and the tent might be damaged, the maid whispered. Zhangsun Wuxia trembled slightly, too afraid to move. Cheng Chumo remained still as well. In the early morning, the maid awoke early to prepare breakfast. Cheng Chumo did not rise. He had slept very well the previous night. Zhangsun Wuxia lay atop Cheng Chumo, her head resting against his chest, drool at the corner of her mouth. The maid, having prepared the meal, entered to rouse the two. Seeing their slumbering forms, she smiled and went outside to gather some grass to feed the donkey. Upon noticing what the donkey was eating, the maid hid the grass behind her. The donkey had a cloth pouch around its neck filled with precious medicinal herbs. The night before, in the darkness, the maid had not seen the donkey's full stature. Today, she realized it was not just any donkey. It was quite impressive. A howl echoed through the air. Zhangsun Wuxia, startled from her slumber, gasped a wolf. Cheng Chumo patted her back reassuringly. Fear not. Today we shall feast on wolves, he declared. Zhangsun Wuxia felt comforted and continued to snuggle against him, wrapping her arms around him. Chapter 421. D. Renjia sends word. Will it be embarrassing if we run away? Don't you have special forces? It said they are incredibly capable. Why not summon them to confront them? Zhangsun Wuxia suggested. Cheng Chumo, unable to see her expression, could only surmise that she was likely quite excited, eager for chaos. There are already those paying attention to Taiyuan. My presence is unnecessary. If I take action, it would complicate matters for them, Cheng Chumo replied. The influence of the aristocratic families is extensive. One action can have widespread repercussions. If I were to directly confront the Wang family of Taiyuan, what would the other families think? They would surely believe I intend to eliminate my benefactor, which would jeopardize the stability of the Tang dynasty. In the past, I could act without adhering to the rules, handling matters without evidence. Now, that is no longer feasible. Oh, then what shall we do? Zhangsun Wuxia asked. Just moments ago, she had desired to embark on many adventures, dreaming of becoming a hero. We shall wait for D. Renjia to deal with the Zhang family, Cheng Chumo replied, his thoughts wandering. At that moment, D. Renjia found himself in considerable trouble. The city was overrun with puppets towering over 3 meters, relentlessly pursuing him. Without Yuanfang's protection, D. Renjia would have already met his demise. We need only exit the city, and those puppets will pose no threat, Yuanfang remarked. D. Renjia sat in contemplation, silent. The grotesque puppets frightened the citizens, causing them to remain indoors. Yuanfang, where do you suppose those puppets originated? D. Renjia inquired. Yuanfang pondered. They must be from the Zhang family. This thought was straightforward. Upon entering the city, the Zhang family had exhibited the greatest hostility. D. Renjia smiled faintly. Realizing Yuanfang was still somewhat naive, he had already deduced the puppet's true origins. The former emperor's escape is rather amusing, D. Renjia remarked. The situation surrounding the Zhang family had escalated significantly, and this news could not be concealed. The citizens of Taiyuan were well aware that Cheng Chumo had gone to the Zhang family to rescue Zhangsun Wuxia, the sister of Empress Zhangsun. Yuanfang displayed excitement at the mere mention of Cheng Chumo, having not anticipated that the elderly figure was, in fact, the former emperor. If the former emperor is here, why not simply eradicate them? Yuanfang questioned. That is not the former emperor's nature, D. Renjia sighed. He is waiting for me to gather evidence. Yuanfang appeared skeptical. Does the former emperor require evidence? Eliminating them would serve as the best evidence. D. Renjia explained. Because His Majesty has entrusted me with this matter. If the former emperor intervenes, it would lend credence to the Zhang family's claims that His Majesty is merely a puppet, and the former emperor would not wish to place him in a difficult position. D. Renjia relished showcasing his knowledge to Yuanfang, enjoying the look of confusion on his face. So, what shall become of the former emperor? Do we need to protect him? Yuanfang asked. D. Renjia offered no response, thinking to himself that it was better for Yuanfang to safeguard him. His Majesty had long since fled, leaving no need for protection. The one capable of slaying the former emperor has yet to be born. Not even a train plunging into the sea could bring him down. What else could? We cannot leave this place. They wish to frighten us away. Huh, but I shall not budge, D. Renjia said with a smile. Yuanfang secretly admired D. Renjia. Any other official would have fled by now. Send someone to Gansu to find Han Tu, and inform him that the Zhang family in Taiyuan has bullied the sister of Empress Zhang's son, further forcing the former emperor into the mountains, Di Renjie instructed. Yuanfang appeared troubled. Han Tu was not someone he could simply approach. He was merely a horse handler near Chengchumo, yet he held considerable influence in the Tang dynasty. He was a figure of authority, not someone a mere 1,000 Bulgard captain like Yuanfang could easily meet. Di Renjie produced a token. Take this token with you, he said. Yuanfang still looked distressed. This token may not be of much use, he replied. Indeed, you are correct. My token holds little sway in Gansu, Di Renjie admitted, his expression darkening. You will have to find a way on your own. After Yuanfang departed, Di Renjie chuckled to himself. The former emperor cannot shift the blame onto me. I have no fault in seeking assistance from Gansu. It is best for the younger generation of Zhang's son Wuxia to handle such matters. Who dares to bully the sister of Empress Zhang's son? A few days later, in Gansu, 1,000 Bull Guard arrived in Shurqing and approached the governor's residence. Greetings. I am 1,000 Bull Guard, sent to seek an audience with General Han Tu. He addressed politely, presenting his token for inspection. After the token was verified, the attendant went to announce his arrival. The governor soon emerged, asking, You wish to see General Han Tu? The 1,000 Bull Guard nodded. Please wait in the governor's office. The governor instructed. The city lord rode out of the city and arrived at the waterside villa. Han Tu was seated at the entrance, cleaning his gun. The special forces recognized the city lord, and after a brief inquiry, allowed him to meet Han Tuesday. I pay my respects to General Han, the city lord stated. Han Tu raised his head and glanced at him indifferently. What brings you here? He asked coldly, harboring a poor impression of the city lord, who had managed to evade disaster during the train incident due to his absence. The 1,000 Bulls Guard wishes to see you, the city lord said, not daring to delay. Have him come over, Han Tu replied. The city lord complied. The 1,000 Bulls Guard soon arrived, and, after explaining the situation, Han Tu stood up and entered the villa to inform the one-armed maid. Shortly thereafter, Li Lizzie emerged, her face aflame with anger after understanding the circumstances. How dare they bully my aunt and my husband? Han Tu, take the Shadow Right Guard with you and eliminate anyone who dares to disrespect my husband, Li Lizzie declared. Wait, Xia Zhu interjected, pulling Li Lizzie aside. Something is amiss. How could my husband call for assistance over such a matter? It would be more appropriate for Zizi to go instead of Han Tu, Xia Zhu suggested. Li Lizzie's eyes flickered as she comprehended Xia Zhu's meaning. Zizi had the Qingyi sect and the landlady behind him. They were well suited to handle this situation. Agreed. My husband must be bored. Let Zizi take the Qingyi sect to entertain him, Li Lizzie laughed. Li Mingdao was thrilled to be assigned by her sister to assist their mother-s sister, affectionately kissing Li Lizzie's face several times. Thank you, sister, Zizi said. Li Lizzie shot her sister a glance before noticing her long legs, feeling a twinge of envy. You should go with the landlady, Li Lixian suggested. The landlady eagerly responded, Sister, I want to go too. No, Li Lizzie decisively rejected. Why would we need so many people? This is a task, not a trip. The landlady began contacting individuals. Li Lizzie, feeling uneasy, requested a token from the concubine Yanzi. Take this with you. It will ensure the Tianxia Society cooperates with you, Li Lizzie instructed. Zizi departed by train, followed by 100 members of the Tianxia Society. They typically attended to their own affairs in Shurcheng, but today, they were finally called upon by Li Lizzie. Chapter 422. Li Mingdao arrives. Also departing was Han Tu, who disregarded Li Mingdao's activities, determined to protect his lord during the impending danger in Taiyuan. Cheng Chumo remained unaware that Di Renjie had betrayed him. At this moment, he observed a donkey and a wolf battling in the woods. What is that donkey's name? It's quite formidable, Changsun Wuxia remarked. It's called Air Donkey. You may also refer to it as the stubborn breed. As for its strength, that is merely standard behavior. Don't be deceived by its smaller size compared to a horse. If it breeds with a horse, it can produce a mule. Cheng Chumo explained. Changsun Wuxia nodded, intrigued to witness the breeding process. As she looked at the donkey, she saw it biting the fur at the back of the wolf's neck, rendering the wolf motionless and submissive. Changsun Wuxia refrained from questioning the phenomenon. Small animals would behave this way when their neck fur was grasped, a remnant of how their mothers cared for them by biting their necks in their youth, an instinctive response. Cheng Chumo lingered in the woods for 3 days. Tomorrow, I shall venture out to take a look. You all stay here, he declared. Changsun Wuxia vehemently disagreed, insisting on accompanying him. The maidservants felt similarly. They could not afford to lose track of him. With no other option, Cheng Chumo led the two out of the woods. Just as they emerged, they found Li Mingdao waiting outside, hands clasped behind her back. You've finally come out. I thought you would stay longer, Li Mingdao exclaimed, her tone brimming with pride. Impressive, Cheng Chumo responded. Li Mingdao beamed with delight at the praise, rushing into Cheng Chumo's embrace. Changsun Wuxiao approached. Zizi, I am your aunt, she said. Li Mingdao, having descended from Cheng Chumo's arms, glanced at Changsun Wuxiao and immediately recognized her as her aunt, wrapping her arms around her. She felt a surge of satisfaction, noting her greater height compared to Changsun Wuxia. The latter found the situation perplexing. Shouldn't he the elder embrace the younger instead? Before long, Li Mingdao released Changsun Wuxia. Aunt, you truly resemble my mother, she observed. Changsun Wuxia covertly glanced at Cheng Chumo, recalling how he would mumble her name in his sleep. even embracing her as if she were his sister throughout the night. It was fortunate they were interrupted by the donkeys braying. You came alone? Cheng Chumo interrupted their conversation. Li Mingda, brimming with pride, replied, how could I possibly come alone? She clapped her hands lightly, and over 3,000 individuals clad in green emerged, collectively kneeling on one knee. We greet our leader as husband, they chorused. At the forefront stood the landlady. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened, realizing Zizi had orchestrated this grand affair. How can you let them expose themselves like this? How will we gather intelligence? Cheng Chumo questioned. No need to worry, there are still over 7,000 more. We must operate in the open, Li Mingda stated. Cheng Chumo sighed, unable to articulate his concerns. The landlady rose, casting a flirtatious gaze at Cheng Chumo. As a horse-drawn carriage was brought forth by Han Tu, followed by 300 mounted special forces soldiers, Cheng Chumo looked skyward, lamenting the arrival of so many people, which hindered their plans for enjoyment. He climbed into the carriage with a bitter smile. In Taiyuan City, Di Renjia stood at the city gate, his heart brimming with joy. He had not anticipated such a substantial response from Gansu, with over 3,000 individuals and special forces arriving. Was the Zhang family still boasting? The city fell silent, devoid of any puppets. As the procession reached the city gate, Di Renjia slightly bowed. I pay my respects to the Supreme Emperor, he proclaimed. Inside the carriage, Cheng Chumo wore a sullen expression. Living a life of leisure is truly challenging. You handle this. I shall not meet anyone, he instructed. Li Mingdan nodded enthusiastically, relishing her newfound authority as she stepped down from the carriage. Di Renjia, your incompetence is evident. Why have you not resolved the train incident yet? What have you been doing? Li Mingda chided in a calm tone. Di Renjia was taken aback. Was he being held accountable upon his arrival? If this reached the emperor's ears, he would face dire consequences. Di Renjia, truly find myself at a loss for excuses, he stammered. Li Mingdao felt a surge of pride, reveling in the thrill of dominance. I grant you 3 days. If you cannot uncover the truth within that time, you may return home to tend to your children, she declared. Cheng Chumo smiled inwardly at her decisive manner. Changsun Wuxia gazed at her enviously. This was the power of authority. As the sister of Empress Changsun, she had never been this audacious. I shall obey your command, Di Renjia replied. Di Renjia gritted his teeth and said, I had thought I was summoning a thunderous ally. Yet unexpectedly, I have called upon an ancestor. I have heard that many puppets have appeared in the city. Are you truly incapable of dealing with puppets? You are most disappointing. Await the reckoning from Sister Xiaowu. Li Mingda added, stand aside. I shall bring order to the Zhang family for daring to bully my aunt. I intend to see how many heads the Zhang family possesses. Di Renjia forced a bitter smile. This is undeniable. The matron is leading the horse over. Li Mingda mounted his steed, and the procession made its way into the city, heading straight for the Zhang residence. The Zhang family was in turmoil. Relatives from Changsun Wuxia's family had arrived. Father, what shall we do? It seems the visitors bear ill intentions, a member of the Zhang family exclaimed, inwardly blaming his father, thinking that if he had taken Changsun Wuxia as his wife, such troubles would not have arisen. Now, with relatives arriving, Zhang Yudao's expression turned grave. Qingyi sect, Zhang Yudao muttered to himself. We must avoid confrontation. It is certainly not auspicious for the Qingyi sect to be in the sunlight. The Zhang family could very well be entangled with them, Wang Gang remarked. Zhang Yudao nodded. It was the first time the Qingyi sect had emerged into the light, as previously their operations were conducted in secrecy. Only the Lijing sect operated openly. Alas, he had not anticipated that one of the 6 doors would make an appearance. Zhang Yudao sighed, feeling powerless and helpless, with no place to escape. No one dared to question the Qingyi sect's intelligence capabilities. Is the Lijing sect still operational? Wang Gang inquired, suspecting that some members of the Lijing sect might be hidden among these individuals. Zhang Yudao shook his head, uncertain. After Li Ji's demise, the Lijing sect had completely vanished. No one knew that the Lijing sect should have belonged to Li Lizhi. Li Daozong had stirred up trouble, staying in Ryu City for so long without anyone knowing what he had said. If he had spoken, it was likely that the Lijing sect was now concealed in Gansu. If he had not, the Lijing sect would seek its next master independently. Members of the Zhang family rushed in, exclaiming, Patriarch, we are surrounded. Zhang Yudao turned to Wang Gang. Brother Wang, you must escape through the tunnels. He was concerned that Wang Gang might implicate him. Wang Gang gave Zhang Yudao a deep look, saying nothing further. If he were in the same situation, he would act similarly. When disaster looms, one must look out for oneself. The crime of the Wang family was rebellion. While the Zhang family's offense was merely humiliating the Changsun family, they were not royal, and their crimes did not warrant death. Wang Gang departed as Zhang Yudao led his family out of the Zhang residence. Upon seeing the mounted Li Mingda, he bowed respectfully. I pay my respects to Princess Jinyang. Humph, does your Zhang family wish for extinction? Li Mingda retorted. Princess Jinyang, your fief lies in Taiyuan, in the land of Jinzhao. Li Lizhi sent me to deal with the Zhang family for this very reason. Punishment must be swift and decisive. No one can object. Chapter 4:23. Seeking trouble, I acknowledge my transgressions, Zhang Yudao said, lowering his head. This left Li Mingda momentarily speechless. Had the Zhang family not been so audacious? Why were they suddenly bowing down? This was his first encounter with such a situation, and he looked to the matron for guidance. What shall we do? He asked. You simply say you saw that old man's head was aching. Use that as an excuse to detain people. Start by apprehending 100, the matron suggested. Li Mingda's eyes lit up with delight. She truly knew how to handle matters. Ah, I see you have a headache. You there, seize him, Li Mingda commanded. Zhang Yudao's eyes widened in terror as he wished to weep. Is such an excuse even permissible? He had thought that once he submitted, Li Mingda would have no further justifications. Surely, he could not reveal to the world that Changsun Wuxia had been bullied, as that would be a tremendous humiliation. Zhang Jiajia, lacking the cunning of the Zhang family, raised his head in anger, glaring at Li Mingda. When has the Zhang family ever endured such indignities? You are in Taiyuan. Princess Jinyang, do not go too far. Zhang Jiajia shouted angrily. He cursed internally, believing that the kingdom did not belong to the Li family. Yet here was Princess Jinyang, oblivious to the sorrow of a fallen nation, continuing to sing songs of the past. Zhang Yudao thought to himself that it was all over. Indeed, Li Mingda was brimming with excitement. The excuse had presented itself. Seize them, the matron commanded furiously. Members of the Qingyi sect advanced to make arrests. Li Mingda watched eagerly, inwardly cheering for resistance. Fight back, fight back. Zhang Jiajia attempted to speak, but Zhang Yudao kicked him down. Princess, please calm your wrath, Zhang Yudao quickly urged. Li Mingda felt a pang of disappointment. Why was there no resistance? How boring. She glared fiercely at Zhang Yudao. What are you? How dare you ask me to calm down? Li Mingda was determined to demonstrate her authority. Did the Zhang family truly believe that no one would dare to confront them? Zhang Yudao was at a loss for words, realizing too late that the Zhang family had overestimated themselves. They could not even provoke Li Mingda. Inside a carriage, Changsun Wuxia clenched her fists in satisfaction. The princess is so impressive, a maid remarked. Changsun Wuxia nodded vigorously. This is what a princess should be. She can be willful and capricious, and others must comply. If they do not wish to, she can wipe them out. It is as simple as that. Over 100 members of the Zhang family were apprehended, including Zhang Jiajia. Is it true that you say Xiaowu is the dog of your husband? Today, I will show you whether she is or not. Execute him, Li Mingda declared. Zhang Yudao raised his hand, his eyes bloodshot. He dared not plead for his son. At this moment, Zhang Jiajia finally felt fear, gazing at Li Mingda in terror. She smiled coldly as Zhang Jiajia recalled that Princess Jinyang had been nurtured by Wu Zetian. A member of the Qingyi sect swiftly drew a blade, and Zhang Jiajia was slain. The Zhang family members trembled in fear, no longer the arrogant figures they once were. And they were all imprisoned. Li Mingda commanded the procession to depart. Zhang Yudao collapsed onto the ground, and Zhang family members hurriedly helped him up. Quickly write to the Zhao family, Zhang Yudao urged. After speaking, he fainted, the blow too great to bear. An elderly man lost a young man. The devastation was immense. At the city lord's residence, the lord hurriedly came out to greet Li Mingda. I pay my respects to Princess Jinyang, an official announced. Get out of the city lord's residence, Li Mingda ordered. The official promptly complied, turning to leave. Li Mingda then turned to Di Renjia, who was standing behind. You shall take charge of the city lord's residence. Remember, you have only 3 days of grace. Di Renjia hurriedly acknowledged, fearful of inciting this formidable presence who had entered the city with bloodshed. Investigate how many families reside in the city. It is unacceptable that upon my return to my fief, no one has come to pay their respects. They must be living recklessly, Li Mingda continued. Di Renjia felt a stirring in his heart. Was Princess Jinyang demanding tribute from the families in the city? Your Highness, how much would you desire? I can arrange it, he said, deciding to curry favor with Li Mingda. Should anything go awry, perhaps she would spare him. Li Mingda scoffed. Do you think my family lacks money? Can the wealth of my family not purchase the entirety of the Tang dynasty? Do you believe that? Di Renjia realized his miscalculation. Indeed, the wealth belonged to her family. I understand, he replied. Li Mingda did not reside within the city. After handing over hundreds of family members to Di Renjia, he led his entourage out of the city. Inside the carriage, he proposed, Prince, shall we have a picnic? Cheng Chumo replied with a frown. You plan to picnic with over 3,000 people? The innkeeper chuckled quietly. Li Mingda's cheeks flushed. Will the Zhang family flee? I must assign someone to keep watch over them. He shifted the conversation. If they escape, that would be for the best, the innkeeper remarked. Cheng Chumo smiled slightly. Is this the confidence of the Qingyi Gate? No matter where they run, Qingyi Gate is adept at this sort of task. Then I shall allow them to roam freely, Li Mingda declared, stepping down from the carriage, only to return shortly. The members of Qingyi Gate dispersed, and the group found a patch of grass to kindle a fire. Prince, you should pitch the tent while we prepare the meat, Li Mingda suggested. Cheng Chumo set about erecting the tent, while everyone busied themselves. Li Mingda approached Changsun Wuxia, who was washing vegetables. Aunt, don't you have anyone? He asked playfully. Changsun Wuxia pinched his cheek. No, I do not. Li Mingda appeared skeptical. Surely your husband is not a man to let such a woman pass by without action? Did you turn him down? Li Mingda inquired. Changsun Wuxia was at a loss for words. Perhaps your prince simply does not fancy me. Li Mingda stuck out her tongue. She was certain Cheng Chumo would be fond of Changsun Wuxia, for she bore a striking resemblance to the empress. The reason Cheng Chumo had not pursued her was simple. There was no substitute for the empress. Cheng Chumo quickly finished setting up the large tent and contemplated erecting another. But Li Mingda rushed over. One is sufficient. With a mischievous smile, She added, come inside. Cheng Chumo acquiesced and entered the tent, where he lay down on a blanket. Prince, my sister mentioned that the concubines do not fare well. If they agree, we should bring them to Gansu, Li Mingda said, settling beside Cheng Chumo. He pulled her close. I do not wish to burden you further. Having you is enough. Your long legs are enough for me to cherish a lifetime. Li Mingda playfully raised her long legs for him to see, and he caressed them, bringing her joy, prompting her to close her eyes in comfort. We have grown accustomed to this. Isn't it better with our family together? Some sisters were sent to marry, while others wed men 50 years their senior. We are fortunate to marry those we love. We are content, Li Mingda spoke softly. His words rang true. The princesses of the Tang dynasty were mere tools, devoid of choice. Without Cheng Chumo, Li Lizzie would have perished long ago, as would Li Mingda. Li Lixian would have married twice. Given their current circumstances, they were indeed grateful. Cheng Chumo's hand slid down, causing Li Mingda's eyelashes to flutter. Not tonight. Please, she whispered. He withdrew his hand, and she opened her eyes. And is quite beautiful. Isn't she? Her figure is admirable. I just saw her, Li Mingda remarked. Who asked you to say that? Cheng Chumo retorted. The aunt's maid said so. She mentioned that the aunt has nowhere to go, Li Mingda explained. It's truly pitiful when you think about it. Chapter 424. The Taiyuan family alliance time to eat. The innkeeper announced as she entered, observing the two with exasperation. Are you so eager? Li Mingda shrugged off the concern, rising to adjust her skirt. Is my hair disheveled? She asked the innkeeper. The innkeeper approached to help tidy her hair. All set. Let us go, she said. The three of them sat around the fire to eat. Aunt, what are your plans for the future? Will you return to the Changsun family? Li Mingda inquired. Changsun Wuxia shook her head. If I could return, I would have done so already. The Changsun family is powerful. Those who do not fit in are cast aside. Changsun Wuji does not acknowledge the Changsun family. Though he no longer holds immense power, his influence remains. If not for the fear of being accused of betraying his ancestors, he would have long since dismantled the Changsun family. He has always regarded his lineage as primary, publicly declaring the Taiyuan Changsun family as a mere branch. Everyone is aware of the truth, yet no one comes to the Changsun family's aid. One must pay their dues in this world. There is no desire for Changsun Wuji to return to the Changsun family. The emaciated camel is still larger than a horse. The Changsun family is that emaciated camel. Why not return to Gansu with me? Li Mingda suggested. My sister specifically instructed me to bring you back. Otherwise, she would scold me, Li Mingda lamented, feigning a pout as if she had already been reprimanded. Changsun Wuxia looked at Cheng Chumo, discerning the priorities at hand. If Cheng Chumo did not nod in agreement, she would merely be a guest in Gansu. Cheng Chumo regarded Changsun Wuxia. Do as you wish. His tone carried an air of detachment, reminiscent of a sage. Changsun Wuxia nodded gently. I don't wish to go just yet. Li Mingda was taken aback, gazing at Changsun Wuxia in confusion, unable to comprehend her refusal. The maid anxiously glanced at Changsun Wuxia. What a splendid opportunity. Why not accept? What my lady means is she will follow you when you return. She does not wish to go back now, the maid interjected. Changsun Wuxia attempted to explain, but was interrupted by Cheng Chumo. It would be fine to return together. You should go back first. I am uneasy. Changsun Wuxia's eyes glistened with tears, having awaited the head of the family to speak. Very well, she acquiesced. The maid sighed in relief, casting a grateful glance at Cheng Chumo, who nodded in acknowledgement. After the meal, everyone prepared to rest. Inside the tent, Li Mingda snuggled against Changsun Wuxia and Cheng Chumo. The innkeeper turned to the maid. Shall we sleep in the carriage? My back is not well. The maid, understanding, followed the innkeeper out, leaving only the three of them in the tent. Changsun Wuxia anxiously hid under the covers. Li Mingda and Cheng Chumo shared a blanket. Aunt, there are wolves here, big, fierce wolves, Li Mingda teased. Oh, Changsun Wuxia remained still. Li Mingda's eyes sparkled with mischief as she devised a plan. Let me tell you a very scary story, she said, not waiting for a response before launching into her tale. The ghostly narrative accompanied by the sound of the wind rustling the tent. Changsun Wuxia's pale face was filled with fear as she huddled under the covers, trembling. Li Mingda, nestled in Keng Chumo's embrace, wore a smug expression. Annie, are you afraid? If you are, come join me under the covers, Li Mingda teased. Longsun Wuxia felt an urge to comply but hesitated, feeling shy. Had it not been for Li Mingda, she would have already sought refuge in Cheng Chumo's warmth. Let me tell you another scary story, Li Mingda continued, her heart secretly reveling in the mischief. She was certain that Longsun Wuxia would be frightened this time. Indeed, Longsun Wuxia's eyes widened in terror as she gazed at Li Mingda. This was rather cruel. After all, the girl was already in someone else's bed, and scaring herself was rather mean-spirited. Longsun Wuxia understood Li Mingda's intentions, which were to coax her into Cheng Chumo's bed. Stop it. I'll come to your bed, she finally declared. With a wicked grin, Li Mingda lifted a corner of the blanket, eagerly awaiting Longsun Wuxia's entrance. Blushing, Longsun Wuxia crawled under the covers, and Li Mingda wrapped her arms around her. Auntie, this is our first meeting, isn't it? Li Mingda remarked. Longsun Wuxia nodded, her eyes misty. It was quite poignant that, as an aunt, she was meeting her niece for the first time. Auntie, you should bring a lady along, she added. With the absence of Empress Deng, It was her responsibility to care for her niece. She cast aside her shyness and embraced Li Mingda. From now on, I shall look after you, Long's son Wu Xia promised. Content, Li Mingda held Long's son Wu Xia close as they drifted to sleep. After a while, she turned to embrace Zheng Chumo, finding comfort in the presence of her fiancé. Long's son Wu Xia suddenly felt a sense of emptiness. Fiancé, what shall we do tomorrow? Li Mingda whispered to Zheng Chumo. He was at a loss, having initially intended to handle matters alone. To his surprise, Li Mingda had brought along so many people, leaving no room for leisure. An idea struck him. How about we visit the Wang family? Their puppet shows are quite remarkable. Li Mingda nodded enthusiastically. With a swift motion, she flipped over and settled beside Cheng Chumo. Fiancé, you must embrace auntie, she insisted. Cheng Chumo remained still, closing his eyes to sleep. As dawn broke, Long's son Wu Xia bore dark circles under her eyes, having had a restless night. Li Mingda was incorrigible. Not only had she entered the bed, but she had also kept Long's son Wu Xia awake half the night with her chatter. Auntie, why didn't you sleep well? I invited you to join, but you refused. That must have disturbed your slumber, haha. Li Mingda teased, skipping away with her hands behind her back. After breakfast, the group set off for the next city. 3 days later, they arrived at the city where the Wang family resided. The bustling streets mirrored the vibrancy of their home. Once inside the city, Li Mingda led the women on a shopping spree, while Cheng Chumo followed with their belongings. At the Wang residence, Wang Gang wore a serious expression. 3,000 people have entered the city with great fanfare. Their intentions are not benign. What shall we do, head of the family? A family member inquired. Wang Gang sighed. What can be done at this point? We must wait, he replied. Report to the head of the family. The Zhao family has sent 2 letters, another family member announced. Wang Gang quickly opened the letters and burst into laughter. The news of over 100 arrests from the Zhang family and murders in Zhangjiajie had instilled fear among the families in Taiyuan. All the families had contacted the Zhao family, collectively submitting a petition to the court in Chang'an to impeach Guo and Yingdao. This was just the beginning. Officials from various regions had already ordered their subordinates to disregard Guo's commands and demanded that Di Renjia leave Taiyuan. They dared not allow Ng Chumo to exit Taiyuan. So they directed their ire towards Di Renjia. Haha, how amusing. Let us see what these 3,000 people can do to the Wang family. Inform the city lord to refuse to host Zhuo, and command the city guards to monitor the 3,000 Qingyi disciples, Wang Gang declared, embodying a spirit of defiance. On the most prosperous street, Li Mingda was fervently shopping while Cheng Chumo carried numerous bags. At a clothing stall, the vendor whispered, all the families in Taiyuan have united. Be cautious. My lord. The stall owner's expression changed as she glanced at Ng Chumo. He smiled knowingly. This situation had grown interesting. He initially thought that Li Mingda's arrival would keep everyone in line, but he had underestimated their resolve to band together. Who organized this? Cheng Chumo asked, pinpointing the crucial question. The Zhao family from Jincheng, the vendor replied quietly. Li Mingda huffed, losing interest in her shopping. Let us return, she declared. Upon returning to the inn, the Qingyi disciples continuously relayed information. Long's son Wu Xia's elder sister had married into the Zhao family, which was the sister of Empress Dongwu. Those with close ties to the empress had allies, while those with opposing interests did not. Long's son Wu Xia's elder sister was among the latter, having worked to undermine the empress and Long's son Wu Ji. The two had been pressured into seeking refuge with their uncle. They were formidable and unafraid of the empress's uncle, who had been a high official during the Sui dynasty, indicating their significant power. Long's son Wu Shi. Cheng Chumo mused to himself. Long's son Wu Xia bit her lip. She too had been marginalized. Her situation was even more dire than that of her sister. For while the empress had an uncle, she did not. Her maternal relatives had disappeared following the fall of the Sui dynasty, leaving her in uncertainty. My sister was fierce when she was young, Long's son Wu Xia remarked. Cheng Chumo chuckled. Do not fear her fierceness. What truly matters is if she feigns weakness. If she does that, I would have no means to deal with her. A touch of fierceness is preferable. Auntie, do not be afraid. No matter how fierce she may be, I am fiercer. I am quite formidable, Li Mingda declared, glancing at the stall owner. Let us assassinate them, she suggested. Cheng Chumo intervened. Assassination is a tactic for chaotic times. It cannot be employed now. This would disrupt the established order. When the Helan family sent assassins after me, no one came to their aid when they were annihilated, precisely because they broke the rules. Some rules must not be violated, especially by me. Everyone is watching. If I lead in breaking the rules, how will others behave? There is no rush. Let us play along with them, Ng Chumo concluded. Li Mingda pouted, reluctantly agreeing, visibly displeased. You take your people to assist Di Renjia. I shall pay a visit to the Zhao family, Ng Chumo instructed. Li Mingda had no objections, eager to leave the city in anger. She intended to return and deal with the Zhang family, suspecting they were behind the recent troubles. That day, Li Mingda and the stall owner departed with 3,000 followers, leaving Cheng Chumo and Long's son Wu Xia alone in the inn. With Li Mingda gone, Long's son Wu Xia felt less restrained and lay back on the bed. Cheng Chumo, will you be able to spare my sister when the time comes? She asked. The eyes gazed at the ceiling. Cheng Chumo had never contemplated harming the sisters of Empress Changsun. If it came to a point of no return, exile would suffice. Is the Taishang Huang present? Changsun Wuxi seeks an audience. A woman's voice echoed from outside. You see how swiftly she arrives, Ching Chumo remarked with a smile. Changsun Wuxiao appeared anxious, genuinely fearful of her elder sister. She hastily stood up to open the door. Sister, Changsun Wuxiao's voice trembled as she lowered her head, unable to meet Changsun Wuxi's gaze. Changsun Wuxi fixed her gaze upon Changsun Wuxiao, reaching out to caress her face. Changsun Wuxiao recoiled a step, rejecting the gesture. Changsun Wuxi entered the room and bowed to Cheng Chimo. I pay my respects to the Taishang Huang, she said, observing Cheng Chimo's countenance. She mused internally about Wugo's remarkable capabilities. The third sister seems quite compliant, Changsun Wuxi continued. Cheng Chimo set down his teacup, scrutinizing Changsun Wuxi. I do not wish for you to involve yourself in the affairs of Taiyuan. To you, Taiyuan may seem formidable. To me, it is merely an ordinary matter. Should I desire, I could dismantle all the families in Taiyuan within a month, and none would dare speak on your behalf, Cheng Chimo asserted. He was not boasting. Li Mingda had already informed Cheng Chimo that the special forces had arrived, though they had yet to reveal themselves. No one knew the whereabouts of the special forces. Whenever Cheng Chimo found himself in peril, they would undoubtedly emerge. The presence of the special forces carried significant implications. It would be impossible to avoid casualties. Changsun Wuxi chuckled. Does the Taishang Huang intend to avenge Wugo's childhood grievances? She inquired. Cheng Chimo smiled faintly. Guanin's maid is not so petty. Had she sought vengeance, you would have long since perished. I respect the wishes of Guanin's maid, he replied. Changsun Wuxi nodded in agreement. Indeed, Empress Changsun had never sought to provoke them. Not due to an inability, but rather out of a desire to refrain. There was no need to destroy what she did not dislike. Presently, Taiyuan's population stood at 2 million, all under the control of its prominent families. Should chaos ensue here, it would spell turmoil for the Tang dynasty. I hope the Taishang Huang will reflect on this. Surely, the Taishang Huang does not wish for the flourishing era of the Tang to reach its end, Changsun Wuxi added. Cheng Chimo turned his gaze towards the window, where dusk was beginning to settle. Shortly thereafter, he withdrew his gaze and addressed Changsun Wuxi. Sit, he commanded. Changsun Wuxi believed Cheng Chimo had come to an understanding and felt a surge of pride. The butcher is merely that. She took a seat across from Cheng Chimo. You harbor quite the ambitions. To end the flourishing era is a tactic I utilize to intimidate Li Shimin. Do you truly believe it can be brought to an end? Huh. Initially, Li Shimin believed because I controlled the economic lifeblood of the Tang. Should I perish, those enterprises would perish alongside me. What does Taiyuan possess? Cheng Chimo remarked. Changsun Wuxi's expression shifted dramatically. She had not anticipated Cheng Chimo's assertion. They indeed sought to leverage the flourishing era to coerce Cheng Chimo into compliance, but to their surprise, he remained unafraid. The situation had become complicated. The family had miscalculated. Cheng Chimo was not swayed by such tactics. Stay here with me. Returning would be superfluous, he added. Changsun Wuxi's face contorted with anger, taken aback by Cheng Chimo's audacity to detain her upon her arrival. If the Taishang Huang has a penchant for married women, he may seek others. Do not harbor such thoughts about me, she asserted, her countenance darkening. The thought of Cheng Chimo's obstinacy unsettled her. She had not anticipated him to be so unscrupulous. Cheng Chimo remained indifferent to her thoughts. His intention to keep her here was to avoid future complications. Should you dare to leave, I will annihilate your family. I speak of all your connections, he stated coolly. Changsun Wuxi halted, turning to glare at Cheng Chimo. She was being coerced by a butcher. She could not doubt the truth of Cheng Chimo's words, for a butcher would not speak falsely regarding life and death. She had long analyzed Cheng Chimo and understood he was a man of action. She ought not to have come, yet. Her jealousy compelled her to seek a glimpse of the man who captivated Changsun Wugo. Chapter 426. To protect you, do you truly believe I am easy to bully? Changsun Wuxi retorted, this being her final fierce declaration. Cheng Chimo rose. I care not whether you are easily bullied. I can assure you, I am indeed bullying you. What will you do about it? He replied. Approaching Changsun Wuxi, he gently grasped her chin. You bear no resemblance to Guanin's maid. You must be rather difficult to manage, yes? Should you utter another word, I shall make you regret it, Cheng Chimo warned. Changsun Wuxi's eyes reddened. Feeling an overwhelming sense of humiliation, she dared not speak another word. Cheng Chimo withdrew his hand and strolled to the window. You lack the courage for a do-or-die situation because you still possess an escape route, do you not? Your escape leads to Chang'an. Can you guarantee someone there will come to your aid? Huh? Who among them would dare speak on your behalf? Cheng Chimo laughed heartily. Changsun Wuxi bit her lip. Changsun Wuxia, feeling sympathy, approached her sister and grasped her arm. Changsun Wuxi glanced at Changsun Wuxia, the once bullied child. Sister, please do not provoke him. Heed the Taishang Huang, for you cannot contend with him, Changsun Wuxia urged. Changsun Wuxi forced a smile, having once perceived herself as a strong woman, akin to Wu Zetian. Yet, before Cheng Chimo, she felt diminutive and feeble, a sensation entirely foreign to her. I am not as perceptive as you, Changsun Wuxi confessed, as if all strength had drained from her. In a lifetime filled with aspirations, why must she encounter Cheng Chimo? Changsun Wuxia pulled Changsun Wuxi to the bedside, whispering softly. Cheng Chimo descended the stairs, entering the hall. Young lad, bring forth the dishes, he instructed. Coming right up, the young lad responded. The apprentice of the butcher. Cheng Chumo smiled upon seeing him. You've arrived today? Cheng Chumo inquired. The lad nodded, approaching with a plate of donkey meat. Sir, please sample this meat. I prepared it myself, he said. Our people have already stealthily infiltrated. The lad spoke in hushed tones. Cheng Chumo nodded, carrying the meat upstairs, with the lad trailing behind to fetch more. Upon returning to the room, the lad began reporting the situation. Changsun Wuxi listened in a daze, her eyes wide. The special forces have arrived in Taiyuan? None of Taiyuan's families are aware. Suddenly, she comprehended why Li Mingda had marched in with 3,000 men. They were there to assist the special forces in covert operations. The special forces were the true blades of slaughter. Once the lad finished, he departed. Can you spare my children? Changsun Wuxi pleaded. Cheng Chumo offered no reply. Do not touch my children. Do as you wish with me, Changsun Wuxi insisted. Her gaze fixed intently on Cheng Chumo. A woman's vulnerability lies in her children, with few exceptions. Some women, post-divorce, abandon their children to live freely. Do you believe yourself to be of great worth? You are mistaken, Cheng Chumo remarked, casting only a fleeting glance at Changsun Wuxi, whose appearance bore no resemblance to that of Empress Changsun. Cheng Chumo held no fondness for her. You may retire to the adjacent room to sleep. I advise you to inform them about the special forces in Taiyuan. The consequences are yours to consider, he continued. Changsun Wuxi clenched her teeth silently and departed to the next room. A middle-aged man entered. How are things? He inquired. Changsun Wuxi shook her head. Refraining from divulging any information regarding the special forces in Taiyuan, she did not dare to. Cheng Chumo had made his decision clear. You all devise a strategy, Changsun Wuxi stated. The middle-aged man's brow furrowed. Well, since that is the case, we need not be polite. Let us depart, he replied. I wish to accompany my sister. You may return, Changsun Wuxi insisted, thinking to herself. Let you two engage in mutual destruction. Then we shall see what you have to boast about. The middle-aged man looked at Changsun Wuxi in confusion. When did she begin to value familial ties so highly? Was this truly Changsun Wuxi? Very well, he said, dismissing any further thoughts. Huh, are you attempting to bully me? You will soon learn of my prowess, Changsun Wuxi muttered to herself, unaware that their conversation had been overheard by the innkeeper. With a smirk, the innkeeper proceeded to Cheng Chumo's room and relayed the information before taking his leave. Changsun Wuxia stared blankly at Cheng Chumo, feeling a sense of dread. My sister is doomed. She will surely be toyed with. I am going to sleep now, she declared. You shall sleep here, Cheng Chumo instructed. Changsun Wuxia's cheeks flushed as she stole a glance at him and softly acquiesced, lying down on the bed. Cheng Chumo had his reasons for this arrangement. He intended to fish for information, keeping Changsun Wuxia in his room for her protection. After satisfying his hunger, he climbed into bed. I do this to safeguard you, he assured her. Changsun Wuxia remained silent, amused within. As she was no naive girl to be swayed by Cheng Chumo's words, she would not fall for such a feeble excuse. If he truly sought to protect her, why not allow her to accompany Li Mingdao? With over 3,000 guards, was there truly a need for concern? She could surmise Cheng Chumo's intentions in keeping her close. Do you see me as a substitute for my sister? You might as well treat us as one and the same, she softly remarked, already having been quite frank. Cheng Chumo's secret was laid bare, and his face flushed with embarrassment as he turned to embrace Changsun Wuxia tightly, opting for silence. Changsun Wuxia lay quietly in his arms. What do you and my sister do at night? She could not help but inquire. It had been an agonizing time for her, far worse than being alone. The agony of longing without fulfillment was the cruelest of torments. She had steeled herself for what lay ahead, yet Cheng Chumo had yet to convince himself. Once all matters here are resolved, he stated. Changsun Wuxia felt a flash of anger and attempted to extricate herself from his embrace. This man is truly hypocritical. Cheng Chumo chuckled inwardly, for he was not being hypocritical, he was genuinely unprepared. He did not lack for women, and he tightened his hold on Changsun Wuxia, who found herself helplessly caught. You are bullying me, she protested. Cheng Chumo gently caressed her face. There is no rush. You are an individual in your own right. I do not wish for you to replace Guanyin Bai, for no one can take her place, he explained. Changsun Wuxia's heart soared with joy, and she nodded gently. Wait for me. I cannot sleep comfortably in my clothes, she said. Cheng Chumo released her, allowing her to rise and change. She donned a thin nightgown and looked at Cheng Chumo. You should change too, she suggested. Cheng Chumo sat up, and Changsun Wuxia assisted him in changing his attire. Once dressed, she comfortably nestled into bed. It's a bit chilly, she remarked. Cheng Chumo covered her with a blanket, providing warmth. Changsun Wuxia felt elated. It was the first time in her life she had felt so cherished. I am going to sleep now, she declared, finding the most comfortable position before shutting her eyes. Cheng Chumo followed suit, closing his eyes as well. Meanwhile, Changsun Wuxi, in the next room, pressed against the wall, eavesdropping, eager to ascertain what Cheng Chumo and Changsun Wuxia were engaged in. However, silence ensued, leaving Changsun Wuxi perplexed. What exactly did Cheng Chumo mean? Chapter 427. Arriving at the Wang family, my younger sister is quite the beauty, albeit a tad older, Changsun Wuxi mused. In the early morning, Cheng Chumo arose and opened the window, observing the hurried citizens below with a slight frown. At that moment, the innkeeper knocked at the door. Cheng Chumo opened it and stepped outside. My lord, the townsfolk are spreading rumors of ghosts haunting the city. Perhaps we should lay low for a while, the innkeeper suggested. Do you truly believe this to be the case? Cheng Chumo inquired. The innkeeper nodded earnestly. Cheng Chumo chuckled lightly. Have you ever seen a marionette? It is likely the Wang family is up to something. Dispatch someone to investigate, he instructed. The innkeeper complied. Once downstairs, he hurriedly ventured out to the street, purchasing a talisman to tuck into his pocket, feeling a sense of security. Cheng Chumo observed this scene from the window, shaking his head. I am so hungry. Chang Sun Wuxia lamented. Change your clothes. We shall go out for a meal, Cheng Chumo commanded. Chang Sun Wuxia quickly changed and approached the room of Chang Sun Wuchen. Sister, we are going to eat, she announced. Chang Sun Wuchen, pale and shaken from the previous night's fright, hastily rose to join his sister. The creaking sounds from the ceiling had nearly terrified him to death. The trio descended to the lower floor. No patrons occupied the dining area. Only a few innkeepers engaged in cleaning. The windows and door frames were plastered with yellow talismans. The three esteemed guests have no food today. The chef has fled. One innkeeper informed them. Left with no choice, Cheng Chumo led the two sisters outside. Walking through the street, the usual clamor had vanished, as if the entire populace had cleared out. After a considerable distance, they finally spotted a stall selling tofu pudding. The three of them sat down. 3 bowls of tofu pudding and a few buns, please, Cheng Chumo ordered. The vendor nodded and promptly served the tofu pudding. The two sisters dined elegantly. While after finishing a bowl of pudding, Cheng Chumo summoned the vendor. Did you not say there are ghosts in the city? Why do you still open for business? He queried. The vendor chuckled softly. I do not wish to open, but I have 7 sons to feed and elderly parents to care for. Why should I close my doors? Why should I live in fear? Death is inevitable for all. This statement caught the attention of Chang Sun Wuxia and Chang Sun Wuchen, who turned to the vendor. Why not just wait until the commotion passes before reopening? Chang Sun Wuchen asked. Cheng Chumo sighed inwardly, recognizing the redundancy of the statement. Akin to inquiring of a destitute family why they do not partake of meat in the absence of grain. Such naivete could only stem from an uninformed individual. The proprietor chuckled softly, refraining from addressing the query, genuinely at a loss for words. The woman, despite her ostentatious attire, posed such a foolish question. This year seemed particularly rife with imbeciles. Allow me to wipe my hands, he remarked. Would any of you care for something to eat? My sweet potato porridge is quite delightful. Would you care to sample it? The proprietor suggested. I'd like to try it, replied Chang Sun Wuxia, her cheeks flushing slightly. Losing some of her usual composure, the proprietor turned to prepare the porridge. After their meal, Cheng Chumo placed a banknote on the table, and the three rose to depart. Where shall we go? Inquired Chang Sun Wuchen. Cheng Chumo ignored her. Conversing with fools would only diminish his intellect. They soon arrived at the Wang residence. With Cheng Chumo standing before the grand entrance, hands clasped behind his back, Chang Sun Wuchen's expression tightened. Inwardly marveling at Cheng Chumo's audacity to approach the Wang family at such a time. The Wangs were well aware of Cheng Chumo's presence at their doorstep, but dared not confront him. They found themselves at a loss for words upon encountering him. Before long, Cheng Chumo's patience waned. He strode towards the Wang courtyard, stating, "The Haven Tea invited us. Is it appropriate for us to enter unbidden? Does he even have the right to demand anything from me? I would not hesitate to sleep in his bed, should you believe it," Cheng Chumo retorted. Upon entering the Wang courtyard, they found it eerily silent, devoid of any presence. The Wang family, upon realizing Cheng Chumo had entered, promptly concealed themselves. They could not afford to face him. What could they possibly say? The families of Taiyuan had united in a pact. How would other clans perceive them if they confronted Cheng Chumo? As a prominent family, the Wangs could not afford such a blunder. This was a line they could not cross. Cheng Chumo, accompanied by the 2 others, meandered through the Wang estate. Upon reaching the rear courtyard, they noticed the walls were significantly taller than elsewhere. Just as they were about to enter, Wang Gang's voice resonated from a short distance behind Cheng Chumo. The emperor has graced the Wang family. What an honor. Wang Gang had no choice but to appear, for he could not allow Cheng Chumo to access the rear courtyard, which harbored too many secrets. I assumed there was no one left in the Wang family, Cheng Chumo remarked with a chuckle. Li Gang smiled faintly, glancing at Chang Sun Wuchen, who met his gaze with calm composure. Cheng Chumo surmised they were engaged in silent deliberation, yet he was indifferent, in the face of overwhelming power. The Wang family's actions were nothing more than futile struggles. When I was in Lingnan, I found the Wang family quite amusing. They even dared to conspire against me. While in Nanzhao, I discovered that a branch of your family had formed there, Cheng Chumo stated. Oh, by the way, Nanzhao has since ceased to exist, he added. Wang Gang's countenance remained unchanged, though internally, he was gripped by fear. Was this a negotiation? What other audacious actions could the Wang family undertake? Do you dare to capture me? Cheng Chumo continued. Wang Gang's face darkened. To capture Cheng Chumo would be tantamount to treason, and failure was a very real possibility. Investigations required proof, while quelling dissent only necessitated a location. Wang Gang was not a fool. He would not fall for Cheng Chumo's ploy. Everything must be substantiated with evidence. Does the emperor possess any? Wang Gang replied. Cheng Chumo felt a headache coming on. This again, the incessant demand for proof. This was the most arduous task of all. How many malefactors had exploited such loopholes because of these two? Suddenly, he recalled someone. Dealing with a person like Wang Gang was evidently beyond his capabilities. He required a specialist. Rest assured, I will provide you with evidence, Cheng Chumo assured him. In truth, He did possess evidence and witnesses, namely, Wang Ying. However, he was reluctant to involve her. She was, after all, a member of the Wang family. What would become of her should she testify? She would live with guilt for a lifetime. Perhaps it was best to avoid this path. Since the Wang family does not welcome me, I shall take my leave, Cheng Chumo concluded, departing with the others. Upon returning to the inn, he instructed the innkeeper to summon the outlaw Zhang San to Taiyuan. The specialist must be summoned. Matters that I cannot handle may well be within the outlaw's capabilities. Cheng Chumo remarked. With the advent of trains, efficiency had reached remarkable heights. A few days later, the outlaw arrived in Taiyuan, bowing before the emperor. There is a task I require you to undertake. I lack evidence against the Wang family, Cheng Chumo stated. Zhang San fell silent. Whose fault is it that there is no evidence? After all, you exterminated the Wang family members in Nanzhao. Now, it seems you have left no witnesses, Zhang San replied. I am aware of what the emperor has said. Indeed, gathering evidence is no simple task, Zhang San added. If it were easy, why would I have summoned you? Cheng Chumo countered. If you cannot find it, then find a way to be eliminated by the Wang family. At that point, I shall lead troops to quell the dissent, he stated. Zhang San grimaced, feeling utterly exasperated. I shall find a way, he conceded. Chapter 428. Zhang San's expertise. Zhang San exited the room, wandering the streets, gazing vacantly at the scattered talismans. What is the emperor thinking? I am a litigator, not an investigator. Such matters should fall to Di Renjia. Why must I intervene? He muttered bitterly to himself. However, he had no choice but to face the task head on. After all, it was an order. Distracted, he made his way to the Wang residence. Upon arriving at the entrance, he hesitated, pacing back and forth before the grand doors, looking up at them. How does one investigate this? He pondered aloud. The Wang family was closely monitoring Zhang San, with Wang Gang's face paling in fear. The outlaw had arrived. Reputation matters. The outlaw is infamous in Chang'an for his ruthless nature. Whoever falls into his hands has no hope, Wang Gang thought. Previously, a family had sought to resolve a matter quietly, spending exorbitantly for assistance, only to have over 300 individuals imprisoned, including high-ranking officials, who still had not been released. Where are the family heads? Why haven't they arrived? Wang Gang inquired. The Wang family members exchanged helpless glances. Who would dare to show up? The family heads likely do not have the courage to come, one remarked. Wang Gang sighed internally. He feared Di Renjia, but he was even more apprehensive of Zhang San. This man had no sense of reason. What could be done? The family members remained silent, unsure of how to proceed. At the Wang residence's entrance, Zhang San suddenly grew excited, realizing what needed to be done. Listen well, Wang family. I, the outlaw, declare that you have committed a crime. Are you aware? Zhang San shouted. Wang Gang felt a jolt at the sound of that voice. A crime? How does he know? Family head. Let us go out and see what he is up to, one family member suggested. Wang Gang, with no other option, agreed to confront Zhang San. Upon reaching the entrance, he asked, Mr. Zhang, what brings you to the Wang family? Zhang San cast a calm glance at Wang Gang, noting the stiffness of his smile, and felt a sense of assurance. He was afraid, which was good. If he was afraid, then there was no need for others to fear. How does your Wang family intend to resolve this act of treason? Zhang San inquired. Wang Gang was initially taken aback, but soon his expression transformed into one of unrestrained joy. Hearing Zhang San's tone suggested he was here to find a solution rather than to provoke trouble. I wonder if the gentleman has a plan, Wang Gang said. You are quite astute. You know who I, Zhang San, am. I am one who assists others in exoneration, not one who brings harm, Zhang San replied. Wang Gang bowed respectfully. Please, esteemed sir, he said. Zhang San, with his hands clasped behind him, led the way into the Wang residence, with Wang Gang following closely behind, pondering how to extricate his family from this predicament. Upon arriving in the living room, Wang Gang promptly offered the finest tea. Please, take a seat, he urged Zhang San, who seemed to assume the role of the host. An amusing scenario as no one contested this arrangement. The Wang family members accepted it as natural, believing Zhang San to be their savior. Cheng Chumo could never have anticipated such a turn of events. His intention was to provoke Zhang San, yet here he was, aiding them in their legal troubles. But alas, this was Zhang San's expertise. All the prominent members of the Wang family gathered in the living room to accompany Zhang San. After a sip of tea, he remarked, The transgressions you have committed are rather serious, yet fear not. As long as I take on this case, you shall come to no harm. If fortune smiles upon me, I might even imprison the emperor. Upon hearing this, the Wang family members were elated. Had they known Zhang San could resolve their issues, they would have never opposed Cheng Chumo. They understood that opposing Cheng Chumo yielded no benefits. They were merely floundering in desperation. Zhang San was undoubtedly their lifeline. What shall we do, sir? We shall comply with your wishes, Wang Gang implored. Zhang San nodded nonchalantly, having completely forgotten the mission Cheng Chumo had entrusted to them. His mind solely focused on the legal battle and how to vindicate the Wang family. Your affairs in Lingnan can no longer be concealed, but fortunately, there are no witnesses. Zhang San stated. Wang Gang's face fell. There is a witness. Our family member, Wang Ying, is aware of these matters, and he is currently in Gansu, he confessed. Bracing himself, Zhang San frowned. That complicates matters. If the emperor truly intends to eliminate you, he would certainly summon Wang Ying. The fact that Wang Ying has not been called suggests the emperor is offering you a chance. Wang Gang was taken aback, finally grasping the situation. It dawned on him. If the emperor truly wished to destroy the Wang family, why would he not call upon Wang Ying to testify? One of the Wang family members slapped his thigh in realization. Indeed, the players are often blinded to the truth, while the observers see clearly. Reflecting on their attitude towards Cheng Chumo, the Wang family members looked grim. The emperor had granted them an opportunity, which they had failed to appreciate. All eyes turned to Wang Gang, whose face flushed with shame. As the head of the family, he had erred grievously, offending one of the most powerful figures in the Tang dynasty, Cheng Chumo. To them, treason was trivial. They had merely supported the Nanzhao kingdom. And this had occurred before the emperor acted against it. Was there truly anything wrong with that? Which family had not secretly engaged with other nations? A clever rabbit has 3 burrows. If they could not thrive in the Tang dynasty, they could always relocate. You must submit to the emperor and deliver those involved in Lingnan for his judgment, Zhang Sen instructed. By the way, I heard you allied with families from Taiyuan to oppose the emperor. You truly are audacious, he added. Wang Gang's expression darkened. He now understood he had been manipulated. The Wang family was a noble lineage. What had they not experienced? Engaging in mischief alongside those lesser families? Did they know what those families had done? They dared to assassinate the emperor, and word of this had reached Chang'an. Our Wang family had no part in the incident involving the train. We never intended to harm the emperor. An elder from the Wang family hastily interjected, with the others echoing his sentiments. They had not, nor would they dare to. The smaller families were unaware of Cheng Chumo's might, but the Wang family knew well the consequences. Even facing annihilation, they had never contemplated striking against him. Wang Gang rose and bowed deeply to Zhang San. His words enlightened him. Their family had been duped, pushed to confront Cheng Chumo on behalf of the Taiyuan families. Without your assistance, our Wang family would be doomed, Wang Gang lamented. You were correct, if I had not intervened. The emperor's last resort would have been to annihilate your entire clan, Zhang San affirmed. The Wang family members nodded in agreement, recognizing the gravity of their situation. You shall accompany me to fetch the emperor. How could you dare not to receive him in Taiyuan? Such folly, Zhang San remarked. Everyone rose and followed Zhang San to the inn. He was right. They had indeed overstepped, naively believing that Cheng Chumo's arrival signified their end. Reflecting on it now seemed absurd. Had Cheng Chumo truly intended their destruction, he would not have come himself. At the inn, all members of the Wang family knelt at the entrance, carrying the thorny branches. We acknowledge our crimes, Wang Gang led. Zhang San, with his hands clasped behind his back, wore a self-satisfied expression. Cheng Chumo emerged, looking perplexed at Zhang San's demeanor. Wasn't he supposed to be here to create trouble? The emperor, the Wang family acknowledges its mistakes. How shall we proceed? You have the authority to decide whether we live or die, Zhang San stated. Chapter 429. Subduing the Wang family of Taiyuan, the Wang family members knelt on the ground, while Changsun Wuqing, who had followed them out, stood dumbfounded. The entire Wang family was kneeling? This was unprecedented. Taiyuan had changed hands. Those who had hidden behind the Wang family were doomed. They had sought to manipulate the Wang family into rebellion, but they had forgotten that the Wang family was a noble lineage, a superfamily, distinct from the lesser clans. 100 mice tied together are still merely mice. Nobility is nobility, a family is a family. Attempting to ascend to nobility by trampling over the Wang family was impossible. Cheng Chumo turned to Wang Gang. You were behind the haunting in the city, weren't you? Resolve it within a day. And that puppet of yours, I'm intrigued. Send one to me, Cheng Chumo instructed, deliberately omitting mention of the rebellion. Wang Gang felt a surge of joy. There was hope. The guilty servant understands. I shall provide the emperor with a satisfactory explanation. From now on, if the emperor commands us eastward, we shall never venture west. If the emperor instructs us to chase dogs, we shall never pursue chickens, Wang Gang vowed. Cheng Chumo nodded indifferently. The emperor shall stay at our Wang family residence. The environment is pleasant there, Wang Gang added. Cheng Chumo contemplated for a moment before consenting. He was eager to examine that puppet. Wasn't it akin to a robot? Quite fascinating. Wang Gang's face lit up with joy as he approached Cheng Chumo, assisting him onto the carriage. What would you like to eat, Your Majesty? I shall prepare it immediately, Wang Gang said, his demeanor overly accommodating. Let us discuss it later, Cheng Chumo replied. Wang Gang nodded eagerly in agreement. After Cheng Chumo boarded the carriage, all members of the Wang family stood, gazing at Zhang San with gratitude. Cheng Chumo did not even mention the matter of treason. They understood why he remained silent. Everyone harbors selfish motives, and Cheng Chumo is no exception. It is better to subjugate the Wang family than to annihilate them. Now, all the elders of the Wang family have submitted. From this moment forth, the Wang family shall belong to Cheng Chumo. There is no need for such concern. These are trivial matters, Zhang San remarked. Indeed, for him, they were mere trifles. The Wang family held Zhang San in even greater esteem. It is no wonder that no one dares to provoke him in Chang'an. The aristocratic families regard him with profound respect. Who can guarantee that their kin will not err? With Zhang San present, every issue pales in comparison. In a secluded courtyard, luxuriously adorned and nestled in a picturesque environment, Cheng Chumo sat beneath a tree. Observing a puppet before him, Changsun Wuxia concealed herself behind Cheng Chumo. The puppet bore a rather terrifying appearance. Chang Sun Wuchen looked at Ching Chumo with a complex expression. The tides have shifted. It is no longer the families that will confront Ching Chumo, but rather the Wang family that will take action against those clans. Ching Chumo might find it challenging to deal with them. However, for the Wang family, it would be as simple as enjoying a meal and a drink. During this period, those families had been exceedingly arrogant, as the Wang family had shown little interest in intervening. That has now changed. The Wang family has come to realize that those clans are about to face their wrath. When the tiger slumbers, the wolves surround it, howling, eager to take a bite. But when the tiger awakens, those wolves will surely flee with their tails between their legs. Those young ladies from noble families are akin to wolves, including the Chang Sun and Zhao families. Before the Wang family, they are not. After a long observation, Ching Chumo rose. Ingeniously crafted, he praised, "This is truly remarkable. Go and summon Wang Gang." The maid outside hurried to comply. Shortly, Wang Gang entered the courtyard accompanied by 2 elders, knowing full well why Ching Chumo had called upon him, merely for the puppet. "I pay my respects to the Supreme Emperor," Wang Gang said. Ching Chumo glanced at him. "I do not wish to pursue past matters. For the future, you must perform your duties well. This puppet is excellent. You should develop it vigorously. Consider ways to incorporate a steam engine within the puppet." Wang Gang was perplexed, but the 2 elders behind him brightened at the thought. "Indeed. If that is the case, there would be no need for strings. Rest assured, Your Majesty," they affirmed. Acquiring a steam engine would not pose a challenge for the Wang family. They already possessed the blueprints. Ching Chumo nodded. "You may leave now." The 2 elders departed, and Ching Chumo strolled toward the back courtyard, with Wang Gang following closely behind. "Does your Wang family have anyone involved in the train incident?" Ching Chumo inquired. "Absolutely not. The Wang family does not dare," Wang Gang replied earnestly. Ching Chumo nodded. "Coordinate with Di Renjia. You should uncover who orchestrated this within half a month. I trust you know how to proceed." Wang Gang acknowledged, aware of his responsibilities. Even without Ching Chumo's instructions, he intended to take action against those involved. Those who participated in the Nanzhao State incident should not be executed. "I understand why your aristocratic families acted as they did. You have not gone too far," Ching Chumo stated. Wang Gang felt a surge of relief. This matter had finally passed. Had it lingered any longer, the Wang family would have faced collapse. Many members of the main clan were prepared to flee, while numerous branches contemplated severing ties with the family and changing their surnames. Now that the issue is resolved, internal strife would soon dissipate. "Rest assured, Your Majesty, such events will not recur," Wang Gang promised. Ching Chumo chuckled, shaking his head. "Why shouldn't they happen? There are matters the court cannot address, but you can, such as instigating civil strife in neighboring countries. Surely, this is within your capabilities, given your family's experience." Wang Gang's face flushed with embarrassment. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will ensure that those involved in the Nanzhao State incident handle this matter. Within a year, I guarantee that conflicts will arise among neighboring nations," Wang Gang affirmed. Ching Chumo smiled. "This is indeed the most favorable outcome. One cannot allow others to slumber peacefully beside them. They must be provoked into conflict. You may return to your duties," he instructed. Wang Gang complied and departed. Chang Sun Wuxiao approached Ching Chumo, her face alight with admiration. "How impressive. With just one Zhang San, all matters were resolved. No wonder my sister has taken a liking to him. He is truly remarkable. He has even subjugated a powerful clan." To Ching Chumo, aristocratic families were merely ordinary. However, to others, they represented an exalted existence, an undeniable behemoth. Chang Sun Wuchen also approached, her thoughts diverging from those of her sister. She found Ching Chumo to be rather fearsome. If he annihilated the aristocratic families, she would not regard him as terrifying. His ability to subjugate them was what truly instilled fear. While others may keep dogs, he kept tigers. "Did your Zhao family participate in the train incident?" Ching Chumo asked. Chang Sun Wuchen smiled sadly. "We did." She did not conceal the truth, nor was there any need to do so. Ching Chumo might not uncover the truth, but the Wang family certainly would. "Annihilate the clan," Ching Chumo declared. "Some matters can be forgiven, others cannot. Furthermore, a small family does not deserve my forgiveness. The Zhao family was not the mastermind," Chang Sun Wuchen explained. "Then there remains a chance of survival. The masterminds must be eradicated," Ching Chumo replied. Chang Sun Wuchen sighed inwardly, relieved that Ching Chumo would not execute all involved. "I wish to understand why they acted in such a manner," Ching Chumo stated. "This is the crux of the matter." Chang Sun Wuxia turned her gaze toward Chang Sun Wuchen, equally curious. Chang Sun Wuchen lowered her head, unsure where to begin. Chapter 430. A heart-to-heart between sisters. Chang Sun Wuxia observed in anxious anticipation. "Why is it so difficult for my elder sister to speak? Just say it," she urged. Taking a deep breath, Chang Sun Wuchen recognized that maintaining silence served no purpose. She would have to speak eventually, because they wished to see the Tang dynasty reshuffled. She finally confessed. Ching Chumo chuckled. "Now I understand why those families acted as they did. During the Sui dynasty's warfare, Taiyuan remained untouched, evading the flames of conflict. Thus, families here outnumber those in other regions. The clans in other areas were ravaged by war. Even if they survived, they were gravely weakened. Over the years, families from other regions have surged forth like mushrooms after rain. This is what the Taiyuan families do not wish to witness. The more families there are, the lower their status becomes. They believe that once Ching Chumo is gone, the Tang dynasty will descend into chaos once more. As the birthplace of the dragon, Taiyuan will once again be in the spotlight. Their status will rise infinitely, and their influence will grow. If the families in other regions thrive, the Taiyuan families must also excel. A rising tide lifts all boats. This is why they dared to manipulate the Wang family. They believed this time would be foolproof. No one could have anticipated that Cheng Chumo would return unscathed. It was surprising that the court would trace the matter back to them. Truly, human greed knows no bounds. Those who bring calamity to the nation deserve death, Cheng Chumo stated coldly, gazing at Changsun Wuchen. The Wang family remains unscathed solely because they have not harmed the great Tang. The families in Taiyuan are destined for ruin. I do not wish for you to plead for anyone, unless you desire to share their fate. With that, Cheng Chumo turned on his heel and departed, leaving Changsun Wuchen in stunned silence. She had not expected such a strong reaction from him. Changsun Wuxia looked at her sister with a complex expression. At this moment, no one could offer assistance. Even their sister Changsun Wugo's survival seemed futile. Sister, it would be best if you refrain from involving yourself in these matters. We are but women, and it is commendable to support our husbands and raise our children, Changsun Wuxiao advised for the first time. Changsun Wuchen forced a bitter smile. She too longed for the domestic life. Yet only she knew that the children were born of concubines. She had none of her own. This was also the reason for her melancholic disposition. As a woman unable to bear children, she could only wait for the concubines to give birth, then dispose of them, proclaiming the offspring as her own. She envied and resented Changsun Wugo for her fertility, believing it was Changsun Wugo who had exhausted their family's fortune. Among the four sisters, only Changsun Wugo had children. Why was that? Did she truly believe she could bear children? Do you know why the worthless Zhang from the family you just married perished? A crow cannot match a phoenix, Changsun Wuchen remarked. Changsun Wuxiao listened intently, hearing this perspective for the first time. I thought I was the one who brought misfortune to my husband, she replied. Changsun Wuchen shot her a disapproving glance. This foolish girl only sought the fault within herself. Truly, she was a good person. Why could she not look to others for the cause? Changsun Wuchen felt a sudden urge to enlighten her naive sister. Although she bullied Changsun Wuxia, she had not done her any real harm. She was not a truly venomous woman. What others do does not concern me. I reflect daily upon my own actions. Have I been faithful in my dealings with others? Have I been trustworthy with my friends? Have I diligently practiced what I have learned? Changsun Wuxiao mused aloud. Changsun Wuchen's expression darkened. She took Changsun Wuxiao by the hand and led her to a tree. Today, a thorough lesson was imperative. If she did not manage this girl, she would be lost. Upon reaching the tree, she stated, the Analects is meant for the common folk. You should be studying the Sushu. Why are you so foolish? No matter how well you cultivate yourself, what good will it do? She believed that one should live for oneself, and when the path grows narrow, one must not yield an inch. Changsun Wuxia stared blankly at her sister. But sister, isn't it said that when one blooms, the fragrance will draw others near? How can the Analects be solely for the commoners when anyone can read it? It is said that without a phoenix tree, one cannot attract a phoenix. I wish to be that tree, she asserted, her face flushing as she continued. Being a phoenix is wonderful. One need not sleep alone, and in the cold, there is someone to hold you. Changsun Wuchen opened her mouth, suddenly realizing her sister made a valid point. She scrutinized Changsun Wuxia seriously. Her figure was still quite good, though she was a bit short. Her skin bore no wrinkles, suggesting she could still flaunt her youth for several years. Where is your phoenix? Changsun Wuchen asked knowingly. Changsun Wuxia stole a glance towards Cheng Chumo's direction. Changsun Wuchen found it amusing. Her sister was still playing the innocent girl, not realizing her age. Do not try to act young. Look at your age, she advised. Changsun Wuxia felt disheartened, lowering her head with reddened eyes, beginning to feign distress. It was indeed difficult to compare herself to the youth around her. Their era had truly passed. Meeting Li Mingda had struck her hard. The sight of his long legs and graceful stature was disheartening. Though her skin was still in good condition, it was somewhat lax. Li Mingda's skin seemed to glisten with moisture at the slightest touch. There was simply no comparison. I will not speak with you anymore. You are bullying me, she pouted. Changsun Wuchen's heart softened. She vowed silently that she had not bullied Changsun Wuxia. She had only spoken the truth. She took out a handkerchief to dab her sister's tears. Do not cry. Knowing your age means you must act decisively. You have been with Cheng Chumo for quite some time now. Why not take the initiative in the evenings? Do you wish to cultivate feelings over several years? The young temptresses of today will not grant you that opportunity. Just look outside. The women of the Wang family are preening themselves. Changsun Wuxia looked toward the entrance. Indeed, many flamboyantly dressed women were posing at the door, causing her to feel flustered. What kind of person is Cheng Chumo? Who in the great Tang does not know him? He has dozens of women around him. Does he not fear exhaustion? Changsun Wuchen continued. Changsun Wuxiao agreed with her sister's assessment. What should I do, sister? Without following Cheng Chumo, I have nowhere to go, she lamented. Changsun Wuchen tenderly caressed Changsun Wuxiao's face. With age comes a yearning for familial affection. Her only kin was her sister, and she regretted having bullied this naive girl in their youth. Sister will help you. We shall not be disheartened, she reassured. Rising, she approached the entrance. Do not loiter at the door. You should be attending to your own affairs. This is not a place for you. The former emperor would never look favorably upon you frivolous women, she declared. exuding an air of nobility. Changsun Wuchen was not intimidated by the multitude of women from the Wang family, some of whom possessed even greater poise than her. Oh, has your Zhao family entered the ranks of the aristocracy? What the former emperor deems worthy has nothing to do with you, a Wang family woman retorted. A mere Zhao family dared to vie for Cheng Chumo's favor. They were hardly deserving of such an honor. Chapter 431. The tension rises. Changsun Wuchen was no pushover. With hands on her hips and chest thrust out, she challenged, "You need not bind your chests. Being as flat as a calm lake hardly gives you the right to entice others. Do you still have any shame?" Indeed. She was the most formidable woman of the Changsun family, and her sister's plight was hardly unjust. The act of standing tall left the women of the Wang family momentarily speechless, prompting them to hurl insults at her. Changsun Wuchen remained unfazed, standing tall with pride before the Wang women. In the distance, Wang Gang's expression darkened. "What a disgrace, what a disgrace," he muttered. "Calm down. The former emperor enjoys this sort of spectacle," Zhang San interjected. Wang Gang agreed, fully supportive of Zhang San's words. In the courtyard, Cheng Chumo sat beneath the tree, thoroughly entertained by the unfolding scene, a rare sight indeed. Changsun Wuxiao approached him from behind, offering to massage his shoulders. "Sister is right. I am no longer young, and she cannot afford to wait. In a few years, others will fade, and Cheng Chumo will not favor her any longer." While observing my sister fiercely argue with those women, I felt immense gratitude toward her. She was shielding me from them. Had they entered, I wouldn't have stood a chance. Just by looking at those women, I knew I couldn't compete. There is a saying, because I am alluring, that is my absolute advantage. I hadn't realized that my sister was quite formidable. Cheng Chumo remarked. Changsun Wuxia's face flushed. In this era, when one praises a woman's strength, it is not necessarily a compliment. If said kindly, it is termed as impressive. If not, it's simply jealousy. Changsun Wuchen embodies the archetype of a jealous woman. "Oh, sister is arguing with them," Changsun Wuxiao exclaimed, rolling up her sleeves, ready to assist. Cheng Chumo was speechless. This was quite a ruckus. Secretly, I admired Changsun Wuchen for holding her ground against more than 10 adversaries without yielding. In the distance, Wang Gang could no longer bear to watch. He ordered someone to summon the Wang family women back. Is this bickering appropriate? The Wang women shot Changsun Wuchen a glare filled with resentment before departing. Changsun Wuchen wore a triumphant expression, her spirits lifted after the altercation. Returning to the tree, she said, "This is the first time your sister has defended you. From now on, you should be like me." Changsun Wuxiao looked at her sister with excitement. In their childhood, sister would often fight for their father's concubines. "Sister, you are truly remarkable," Changsun Wuxiao said. Cheng Chumo found amusement in their thoughts. The intricacies of a woman's mind eluded him. Every woman harbors a tiger within, drawn to excitement, though the reasoning behind it remains a mystery. Though fearful, they are inexplicably compelled to act. Cheng Chumo rose and departed, while Changsun Wuchen urged her sister to sit. "In a few days, the Changsun family will hold an ancestral worship ceremony. Will you return?" Changsun Wuchen asked. She had not intended to inform Changsun Wuxiao, but the current circumstances necessitated enlisting her sister's aid. Should the Wang family act against those small clans, the Changsun family would undoubtedly be implicated. Her true aim was to bring Cheng Chumo back. As long as he attended, none would dare threaten the Changsun family. Changsun Wuxiao appeared troubled. Since her marriage, she had not returned to the Changsun family. She was uncertain how to refuse, as she harbored no sense of belonging to the Changsun family, akin to how Empress Changsun felt detached from her own kin. Changsun Wuchen's heart stirred. "If you return with me, I promise not to bully you and will even provide you with beautiful garments." She understood that this would not sway Changsun Wuxiao, but it was meant to evoke memories of their childhood. If our second sister were alive, she would likely return as well, Changsun Wuchen said, her voice tinged with melancholy. After all, Empress Changsun was her sister, and now she was no more. Changsun Wuxiao bit her lip and nodded solemnly. As night fell, Cheng Chumo practiced martial arts beneath the tree, while Changsun Wuxiao watched from a distance. Cheng Chumo paused and looked at her. "Is something the matter?" he inquired. "I wish to visit the Changsun family," she replied, her gaze hopeful, silently imploring him to accompany her. Cheng Chumo remained silent, returning to his training. Changsun Wuxiao's heart leapt. If he had no desire to go, he would have outright refused. His lack of refusal suggested he was inclined to join her, needing no further persuasion. 3 days later, a procession of over 1,000 people made their way to the Changsun family. Cheng Chumo rode atop his horse, with Wang Gang beside him. "How is the operation proceeding?" Cheng Chumo asked. "Rest assured, Your Majesty, 3 families have been eradicated, and within half a month, the rest will follow," Wang Gang replied. Cheng Chumo had tasked him with investigating the train incident. Wang Gang had not conducted an investigation. Instead, he sought evidence of wrongdoing among those families to extinguish them entirely. Unlike Cheng Chumo, he dispersed the members of those small clans and confiscated their assets. It was arduous for Di Renjie to gather evidence against those families. While the Wang family required none, there was an abundance of it. Cheng Chumo cast a disdainful glance at Wang Gang. "I did not expect you to be so ruthless." "Alas, the hearts of men have grown cold," Cheng Chumo remarked, tightening his legs against the horse's belly as it quickened its pace. Wang Gang's face turned various shades, a mix of red and black. Cheng Chumo had the audacity to label him ruthless? What audacity it took to utter such words. While it would be acceptable for others to say it, for Cheng Chumo, it was a grave accusation. Wang Gang pondered whether to explain himself, but Cheng Chumo had already vanished from sight. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He addressed his kin beside him, instructing them to continue dealing with those families, and to be ruthless. They should not allow any opportunity for resurgence. His kin responded affirmatively. Wang Gang believed this approach was entirely justified. If one does not strike the snake down entirely, they will return to harm us. Cheng Chumo's claim of his ruthlessness might have been a sarcastic remark. He had never left survivors, and compared to the Wang family, he was remarkably merciful. Changsun Wuxia and Changsun Wuchen listened intently from within the carriage. Changsun Wuxia felt speechless. This was too entertaining. Changsun Wuchen, however, was not so amused. Her heart trembled at the severity of it all. The entire clan was to be exiled. There were no killings, yet there would be no chance for resurgence. For a single chopstick is easily broken, while a bundle of chopsticks is nearly impossible to snap. A fractured family becomes mere scattered sand. Wang Gang was indeed a cunning old fox. To label his punishment as severe would be incorrect since he had not taken lives. Yet to consider it lenient would also be misleading, for those families would never rise again. Changsun Wuchen sighed, glancing at Changsun Wuxia, who was lost in thought. Her small face slowly contorting with concern. Will the Changsun family meet the same fate? Changsun Wuxia pondered aloud. Changsun Wuchen sighed internally. This foolish girl believed their fate lay in their hands. It depended on how Cheng Chumo felt toward their deceased second sister. I never imagined the Changsun family would need to rely on my second sister's legacy to survive, Changsun Wuchen lamented. Changsun Wuxia had no qualms about leveraging her sister's legacy. That seemed perfectly acceptable to her. Observing her reaction, Changsun Wuchen playfully tapped her forehead. Have you ever encountered a lion? What do you think of it? She asked. It's formidable, Changsun Wuxia replied succinctly. Changsun Wuchen inhaled deeply. The term formidable encompassed much. Those who are truly formidable often do not place great value on familial ties. Indeed, what kind of woman would grow up alongside Wu Zetian? Changsun Wuchen mused. She speculated that Li Mingdao must possess a myriad of cunning thoughts. A few days later, Cheng Chumo arrived at the Changsun family estate. Changsun Wuchen had already informed the clan in advance, and all the prominent clan members were gathered at the entrance to greet him. This time, the guests were certainly not insignificant figures. Cheng Chumo's reputation precedes him. Wang Gang, the patriarch of the Wang family, stamped his foot, causing a tremor in Taiyuan. Such a person arriving at the Changsun household demanded utmost respect. Cheng Chumo rode up to the entrance of the Changsun residence, where all the members of the family bowed in deference, proclaiming, "We pay our respects to the Supreme Emperor." Wang Gang dismounted first and hurried to assist Cheng Chumo down from his horse. Cheng Chumo shot him a glare, but Wang Gang feigned ignorance and continued to help him dismount. Cheng Chumo felt a mix of exasperation and admiration for Wang Gang. Did he not care for his dignity? Apparently not. In this moment, maintaining pride was futile. The Wang family had already aligned themselves with Cheng Chumo, and it was imperative to act as a sycophant to extract benefits from their new master. Changsun Wuchan and Changsun Wuxia dismounted their carriage, gazing at the Wang family's gates with a tumult of emotions. Once upon a time, she was not even allowed to enter through the main door when she married, while her elder sister suffered even worse, being sent off through a side door from her uncle's home. Upon arriving at the grand hall of the Wang family, Wang Gang began to berate the Changsun family without the slightest hint of civility. Is this how you welcome the Supreme Emperor? There are far too few decorative fabrics here. Does the Changsun family wish to forfeit their standing in the Tang dynasty? Wang Gang declared. He was acutely aware of Cheng Chumo's situation and well informed of the Changsun Empress's circumstances. At this juncture, being polite to the Changsun family would be sheer folly. Observing Cheng Chumo's unchanging expression, Wang Gang felt assured that his actions were justified. Let it be known throughout Taiyuan, the Changsun family has treated the Supreme Emperor with contempt, and all their shops shall incur a 50% tax increase. Wang Gang continued. This exemplified Wang Gang's authority. When he decreed an increase in taxes, it was done. The head of the Changsun family, a middle-aged man, lowered his gaze, not daring to utter a word. Changsun Wuchan bit her lip, fully aware that Cheng Chumo was seeking retribution for her younger sister. As Cheng Chumo took his seat, Wang Gang positioned himself behind him like a loyal guard. Only Cheng Chumo was seated, while the members of the Changsun family stood, some of the younger ones wearing grim expressions, their fists clenched. When had the Changsun family ever endured such indignities? A maid approached with tea. Serve a cup, Wang Gang commanded. The maid, visibly distressed, glanced at the head of the Changsun family, who nodded in acquiescence. The maid placed a cup of tea before Cheng Chumo, who took a sip. Wang Gang's eyes narrowed as he noticed the writing on the desk. He pointed at the head of the Changsun family, furious. How dare you use a dragon-engraved desk? Are you plotting rebellion? Seize him, Wang Gang ordered. Cheng Chumo nearly spat out the tea he had just sipped. Was this really how he intended to provoke? Changsun Wuchan could no longer contain herself and glared at Wang Gang, astonished that he would behave in such a manner. You. Changsun Wuchan seethed, unable to find her voice. Wang Gang shot her a look that conveyed a silent message. In an instant, Changsun Wuchan understood. This was merely a performance. Wang Gang was not foolish, after all. They were in the maternal home of the Changsun Empress. Changsun Wuchan discreetly touched her sister's hand, prompting Changsun Wuxia to look at her with confusion. Changsun Wuchan felt a swell of frustration. She was acutely aware of her sister's plight. She was no fool, and such matters were not lost on her. Changsun Wuxia regarded her sister, fully comprehending but unwilling to assist, believing that it was not yet sufficient. Though she had been quite young at the time, her mother had recounted the story of how her elder sister had been mistreated. No one from the Changsun family had stood up for her. Changsun Wuchan was at a loss for words. Suddenly, Changsun Wuxia smiled and moved to sit beside Cheng Chumo, wrapping her arms around his. "Oh, Supreme Emperor. My sister once stood here and was subjected to much ridicule, to the point of tears," she remarked. Cheng Chumo's blood pressure soared as his face flushed crimson. "Bring forth the soldiers," Cheng Chumo commanded. Special forces rushed in from outside. "Arrest them all," Cheng Chumo ordered. The special forces complied, detaining every member of the Changsun family, including Changsun Wuchan. Wang Gang's heart quivered. This Changsun Wuxia was ruthless. She was effectively sealing the fate of the Changsun family. Interrogate each one of them. Find out who has wronged Changsun Wugu. Cheng Chumo's voice echoed with fury. The soldier named Hanta rushed in, bowing respectfully. It was the first time he had witnessed Cheng Chumo in such a rage. The last time he had been this angry, 70,000 Turks had perished. "Rest assured, my lord, even if I must flay them to extract the truth, I will find out everything," Hanta vowed before exiting the room. Wang Gang wiped the sweat from his brow, feeling an immense weight lift momentarily. "I shall also take my leave," Wang Gang said, departing. Upon reaching the hall's entrance, he encountered Zhang San. "Brother San, you finally arrived. The Supreme Emperor intends to annihilate the Changsun family. You must think of a way," Wang Gang urged. Zhang San appeared spirited. "A trivial matter," he replied. Wang Gang was about to say more when he suddenly remembered Hantu's interrogation of the Changsun family, insisting on flaying them. He grabbed Zhang San and hurried along. Just as they reached the back courtyard of the Changsun residence, they heard anguished screams. A Changsun family member was bound to a tree, while Hanta toyed with his pistol, and the special forces lashed him with whips. "Will you speak?" Hantu's tone was icy. The Changsun family member gritted his teeth, resolute in silence. "You cannot speak. Many have participated in wronging the Changsun Empress, who among the direct descendants did not wish to trample upon her." Hanta lost his patience and raised his hand, firing a shot. The Changsun family member fell lifeless. Wang Gang's heart trembled. This was no interrogation, it was execution. He silently rejoiced that the Wang family had submitted early. Zhang San turned to leave, but was caught by Wang Gang. "Brother San, you cannot leave. If you do, the Changsun family will perish," Wang Gang implored. Zhang San, having spent considerable time with Cheng Chumo, understood Hantu's intentions. Regardless of guilt or innocence, death awaited them. "General Hantu, please exercise restraint," Zhang San said, steeling himself. Hanta turned to Zhang San. "Do you have something to say?" Zhang San, summoning his courage, approached. "Killing indiscriminately is unjust. Have their crimes been documented?" he inquired. Hanta frowned, and Zhang San trembled. "What I mean is, let me handle this. I will take responsibility for the interrogations. Those deserving of death will certainly be dealt with accordingly," Zhang San stated. Hanta shook his head in refusal. "Not possible. Next," he commanded. Another Changsun family member was brought forth, and this time, without question, Hanta fired again. Zhang San was splattered with blood, his eyes wide with shock. Wang Gang felt regret. They should not have come. "Next," Hanta called. Changsun Wuchan screamed as she rushed out. The soldiers hesitated. She was the elder sister of the matriarch. Hantu, out of respect, slightly bowed. "General Hantu, I implore you, do not kill him. Whatever you wish to ask, I shall answer. I know everything," Changsun Wuchan pleaded. "The Changsun family has no men," Hanta remarked indifferently. As the male members of the Changsun family bowed their heads in defeat, Changsun Wuching turned to look at his kin, a chill running through his heart. Is it truly the case that the Changsun family has no sons? He murmured to himself. A few members of the Changsun clan rushed out, confessing, "We bullied our aunt. It was our doing, and it has nothing to do with others." Hantu shook his head. "The youth cannot match. They must at least be in their 40s or 50s. Changsun Wuching smiled at the young ones. There was still hope for the Changsun family. He turned to Hantu and asked, "Could you take me to see the emperor? I will plead with him. If he still wishes to execute, I shall have no words left." Changsun Wuching wept as he spoke. Chapter 433. The execution of those over 40, even the strongest of women, could not bear the weight of the situation any longer, and Changsun Wuching had reached his limit. If not for his family, he would have crumbled long ago. Hantu remained silent. "My orders are to interrogate. I have not received any command to take you to see the emperor," he stated. "Please, I beg you, allow me to go," Changsun Wuching implored. Hantu remained unmoved. Many had pleaded, and if he acquiesced to every request, his own duties would be rendered meaningless. Seeing that Hantu was unyielding, Changsun Wuching turned to Wang Gang. "Master Wang, could you lend your assistance?" he asked. Wang Gang sighed internally, torn between the desire to help and the fear of repercussions. "If my master does not assist you, I shall not either," Xiao'er interjected. Hantu kicked Xiao'er down. "Impudent. Is this your place? Mind your own business," he chastised. Xiao'er promptly fell silent, acknowledging that his master was indeed right. His only duty was to follow orders. Changsun Wuching looked at Zhang San. who could not tolerate such pleading eyes. He softened. General Han, would you assist me? Can I take him to see the emperor? Zhang San inquired. Han Tu cast a fleeting glance at Zhang San. How you proceed is your affair. I am only responsible for the interrogation, he replied. Zhang San felt a surge of respect. This was the essence of a professional soldier. Chang Sun Wuqing gazed gratefully at Han Tu. It was clear to her now that Han Tu's intentions were not to escort her. But Zhang San could do so as long as it did not interfere with Han Tu's interrogation. Next, capture the elderly, Han Tu commanded. The special forces should focus on the older ones. Bang! Han Tu fired his weapon again. Zhang San hurriedly led Chang Sun Wuqing away. If we delay further, countless lives may be lost. Upon reaching the Grand Hall, Chang Sun Wuqing pleaded, Your Majesty, I was wrong. Our Chang Sun family was wrong. I beg you to spare them. I will bear all the blame myself. She knelt on the ground, her voice filled with sorrow. Cheng Chimo continued to sip his tea, seemingly oblivious to her words. The sounds of gunfire echoed within the hall. Chang Sun Wuqing crawled beside Cheng Chimo. Please, spare them, she implored. Cheng Chimo still paid her no heed. Chang Sun Wuqing turned to her sister, Chang Sun Wuxia. Sister, this is your family too. Please aid them. Chang Sun Wuxia, filled with concern, supported Chang Sun Wuqing's arm. Sister, is it truly worth it for them? She asked. Do you not think they owe us an apology? They have bullied us without consequence. It was merely bullying. What family does not tease their younger siblings? Do you know how our second sister was treated by others? Have you any idea how I was mistreated? Chang Sun Wuxia continued. Do you know how they tormented our mother? They withheld our monthly allowances. When I married, I had no jewelry, no dowry. Because of this, I faced scorn in the Zhang family. When my husband died shortly after our marriage, I wished to return to my family. Do you know what they said? That my return would bring shame upon the family. Huh, why should I help such a family? The latter part of her words erupted in a shout. Who could understand her grievances? In this era, lacking a dowry signified a lack of value, inevitably leading to neglect. Even the poorest of families would scrape together a dowry for their daughters, ensuring they were treated well in their husband's home. The esteemed Chang Sun family offered nothing. When my mother died, I wished to return for a visit. Do you know what they said? That I was cursed, and returning would bring disaster to the family. Huh. And now, upon my return, the family truly faces calamity, Chang Sun Wuxia lamented. Having finished, Chang Sun Wuxia's face was stained with tears. Chang Sun Wuqing stood frozen, recalling the many memories of the past. What face did she have to ask Chang Sun Wuxia to help the Chang Sun family? If the roles were reversed, would she assist? No. Cheng Chimo reached out to wipe away Chang Sun Wuxia's tears, as if comforting the empress, his touch gentle. Do not cry, he said. With those words, Chang Sun Wuxia ceased her weeping, biting her lip as she poured tea for Cheng Chimo. Chang Sun Wuqing's heart ached. How much suffering had led to such resignation? Inform Han Tu that those over 40 should be executed on the spot, Cheng Chimo commanded. Zhang San exited the grand hall with a complex expression. The emperor has decreed that all over 40 shall be put to death, he reported. He had not spoken in defense of the Chang Sun family. Had he done so, Cheng Chimo would have given him leeway. He chose silence. He intended to record this event in the laws of the Great Tang. To remind everyone, do not bully the impoverished youth. While it may be easy to oppress others, do not weep when they return for revenge. The Chang Sun Empress's maternal family served as a warning to the world. Han Tu nodded. Kill, he ordered. The special forces immediately commenced the execution, leaving no survivors among those over 40. The young ones stood in shock, numbly witnessing the heaps of corpses, fathers, relatives, strewn about. Once the task was completed, Han Tu returned to the Grand Hall. The matter is resolved. 137 lives have been taken, he stated. Chang Sun Wuqing fainted upon hearing the number. The Chang Sun family had met its end. Chang Sun Wuxia showed little reaction. Cheng Chimo rose and began to exit. Chang Sun Wuxia followed suit. Well done, Cheng Chimo remarked. The procession departed from the Chang Sun family. Chang Sun Wuqing was led away by Chang Sun Wuxia. They were bound for the home of the third sister, the Sun family. Sister, I am so weary. I long to find a place to seek refuge, Chang Sun Wuqing confessed. Chang Sun Wuxia embraced her sister. Some matters must be resolved. If we do not settle the affairs of the Chang Sun family today, they will linger until tomorrow. From this day forth, the Chang Sun family shall face no further obstacles. None will dare to trouble them again. Do you not wish to help them again? Can a group of children truly manage a family? Chang Sun Wuxia said. Chang Sun Wuqing gazed at her sister, examining her with newfound seriousness. No wonder the second sister could ascend to empress. You truly resemble her. I shall assist them for a few more years, Chang Sun Wuqing declared. Giggling, Chang Sun Wuxia laughed joyfully, her heart finally unburdened by the weight of revenge fulfilled. Chang Sun Wuqing rose from Wuxia's embrace, casting a sidelong glance at her. You certainly know a lot, he remarked. I apologize, dear sister, he added sincerely. Wuxia merely smiled, unbothered by his words. They were no longer children. The past was behind them. Sister, shall I summon the Grand Emperor? Wuxia teased, noticing her brother's smooth skin. Wuchen pinched her playfully. You little rascal, just wait and see how I deal with you. The two siblings frolicked within the carriage, oblivious to the corpses scattered outside. Once married, a daughter becomes like spilled water. In their hearts, the Chang Sun family was merely a memory. The saying goes, marry a chicken, follow the chicken, marry a dog. Follow the dog, and such was their destiny. Chapter 434. Changsun Wuchen. I was forced. Cheng Chumo entered the carriage, and Wuchen immediately grew tense. Now aware of Cheng's formidable presence, no longer daring to behave as she had during their first encounter. Rain began to fall outside. It's raining, Cheng noted. Wuchen scoffed internally. Even a divine general couldn't endure the hardships alongside soldiers. Wu Xiao swiftly searched for dry clothes to assist Cheng in changing. Rainy days can be rather dull. How about I pose a riddle for you? Cheng suggested. Wu Xiao nodded eagerly, awaiting the challenge like an obedient child. This is a significant question. One that would be asked of officials in the Tang dynasty, Cheng stated. Wu Chen's interest was piqued. The civil service examinations of Tang were indeed intriguing. You possess 60 sheep, 10 freeze to death, 10 are slaughtered, 10 are given away, and 10 are cooked. How many remain? Cheng posed. Wu Xiao silently calculated, 20. Cheng chuckled softly, incorrect. Wu Chen chimed in. Do you understand what it means to be an official? Wu Xiao shook her head, uncertain. First, if 10 sheep freeze to death, that cannot be reported. To report it would invite accountability, and if unreported, then they did not perish, Wu Chen explained. Wu Xiao nodded blankly. Next, killing 10 sheep is even more problematic. The reason for the slaughter cannot be justified, thus it also cannot be reported. Wu Xiao remained dumbfounded. As for giving away 10 sheep, are you jesting? The sheep symbolize the people of Tang. Do you dare to give away the populace? That would be courting death. This too cannot be reported, Wu Chen continued. Wu Xiao gaped in astonishment. Cooking 10 sheep is tantamount to embezzlement, which also cannot be disclosed. So how many sheep do you have left? Wu Chen inquired. Wu Xiao stared blankly at her elder sister. Still 60? Wu Xiao hesitated, unsure of her assertion. She knew the answer, so why resort to dishonesty? You are correct. There are still 60. Those in power often share a singular thought. To seek neither glory nor blame, Wu Chen stated. What if it becomes known? Wu Xiao asked. Then report the frozen sheep as the ones that died. Claim the slaughtered 10 were frozen. Assert the gifted 10 were likewise frozen, and the cooked 10 too were frozen. Ultimately, that leaves 50, Wu Chen concluded. Wu Xiao was already bewildered, glancing at Cheng. Cheng smiled. Your sister speaks wisely. Wu Xiao found it hard to digest such reasoning. Her expression conflicted. This question must remain confidential. The Grand Emperor may discuss it, but we cannot share it, Wu Chen cautioned. Wu Xiao chose silence, seeking a corner to lie down in contemplation. Cheng was at a loss for words, wondering if it was necessary to present the riddle at all. Wu Chen sighed, attempting to comfort her sister. Why the long face? This is reality. Wu Xiao struggled to voice her thoughts. She did not believe this was right. After a lengthy period of consolation, Wu Xiao gradually began to accept this harsh truth. She had no choice but to concede. Night fell, and the rain continued to pour as Cheng prepared for sleep. Wu Xiao inched closer to him, or rather, was kicked out of her blanket by her sister. What's wrong? Cheng inquired. Wu Xiao stammered, unable to articulate her thoughts. Wu Chen playfully kicked Wu Xiao again, causing her to press against Cheng. Now this is convenient. No words are necessary, Wu Chen thought, feeling a bit twisted in her delight, as if her younger sister had stolen her man. Since she could not have him, letting her sister take him felt strangely satisfying. Eagerly, she listened for any sounds. Her heart racing. After a moment of silence, she peeked out from under the blanket, stunned to find Cheng had already shifted to the middle. Wu Chen's eyes widened. You, she stammered. Wu Xiao beamed with excitement. Her sister had brought this upon herself. After waiting a long while with no further sounds, Wu Xiao drifted off to sleep, while Wu Chen remained wide awake, biting her lip. Why did Cheng not tease her sister, but instead target her? She couldn't comprehend. In the dead of night, Cheng's hand slipped beneath her blanket. Wu Chen's eyes widened in shock. This is too much, she thought, turning to glare at Cheng. Her eyes glimmering in the darkness as they locked onto his. I have a family, Wu Chen silently proclaimed. Cheng smirked. That will change. Wu Chen's expression twisted in conflict. She understood the implications of Cheng's words. This was revenge. Cheng nestled into Wu Chen's blanket, leaving her stiff with shock, unable to move. His large hand slipped beneath her sleeping garment. Wu Chen shut her eyes, her body trembling lightly. No, she whispered. Cheng feigned ignorance. No wonder you stand tall when fighting those women from the Wang family. You indeed possess some spirit, he murmured close to her ear. Wu Chen's ears tingled as she wrapped her arms around Cheng's neck. Lower your voice. Don't wake Wu Xia, she urged. Half an hour later, Cheng fell asleep, while Wu Chen cautiously tidied up the aftermath. Alas, she sighed inwardly, realizing she had become someone she never thought she would be, unexpectedly willing to yield. She felt as if she wished to be completely enveloped by Cheng. Thankfully, they had an agreement. This matter would remain unspoken. As dawn approached, Wu Xiao awakened to find Wu Chen still asleep, leaving her speechless. Sister, it's time to rise, Wu Chen nudged. Wu Xiao opened her eyes. Did you too? Wu Xiao asked, a teasing glint in her eyes. Wu Chen shook her head. I am not like you. I have a husband. Oh, Wu Xiao replied, losing interest in the inquiry. Cheng entered the carriage, holding a platter of donkey meat. It was indeed delightful to have a server accompanying, allowing one to indulge in the delicacy at will. The two women, opening the window to fold blankets, fortuitously witnessed the young server being chased and kicked by a donkey. What a fitting retribution, remarked Changsun Wuxia. Cheng Chumo nodded in agreement, noting that no donkey would harbor fondness for the server, and it was entirely reasonable for his own donkey to kick him. Once they had tidied up, the three began their meal, the atmosphere remarkably harmonious. However, Changsun Wuxia sensed something amiss. What is peculiar about the situation? She inquired. Tomorrow we will arrive at the Sun residence. Do inform me about your third sister, Cheng Chimo suggested. Changsun Wuxin commenced her narrative. Changsun Wuqiu was Changsun Wuxin's biological sister. Interestingly, their relationship was strained. Changsun Wuqiu harbored a multitude of thoughts and, after her marriage, maintained minimal contact with Changsun Wuxin. It was the Sun family that instigated the move against Cheng Chimo this time. The Sun family, though not an esteemed lineage, had prospered for 4 generations and boasted a familial legacy of over 3 centuries. Despite lacking the status of a noble house, their influence was substantial. Cheng Chimo frowned slightly upon absorbing this information. The matter ahead appeared complex. Could you perhaps persuade your sister, Changsun Wuqiu? He inquired. Changsun Wuxin offered a wry smile. I shall give it a try. She was aware of Cheng Chimo's formidable reputation. He was not one to hesitate in violent matters. To ensure Changsun Wuqiu's safety, this was the only course of action. Days later, Cheng Chimo visited the Zhao family and was taken aback upon encountering Changsun Wuqiu, standing frozen. He turned towards Changsun Wuxin, who looked equally astonished at her sister's appearance. You've renounced the world? Changsun Wuxin exclaimed. Changsun Wuqiu chuckled lightly. Indeed, but there is little meaning in it. I merely wanted to try. Cheng Chimo was at a loss for words. Was this truly a matter for experimentation? It seemed there was a rationale behind the requirement for a college degree for modern monastic life. If anyone could simply become a monk, the temples would be overflowing. How then could the abbot drive a BMW or a Ferrari? Earning a meager living would hardly suffice. Well then, Changsun Wuxin sighed in relief. It's fortunate you did not fully renounce. Please, do come in, Changsun Wuqiu beckoned. As they entered the Zhao residence, the reality diverged from Cheng Chimo's expectations. He anticipated a confrontation. Upon reaching the grand hall, Changsun Wuqiu ordered tea to be served. Neither Changsun Wuxin nor Cheng Chimo dared to partake, having learned to be cautious of their sister's concoctions in their youth. Cheng Chimo scrutinized the bottom of his teacup. Is your poisoning so perfunctory? He asked, his expression darkening. The others, including Han Tu, bristled with anger and prepared to retaliate. But Cheng Chimo raised a hand to halt them, directing his gaze at Changsun Wuqiu. Shouldn't you provide me with an explanation? He pressed. Changsun Wuqiu appeared nonchalant. It is indeed poisoned, but fret not. The toxin merely awakens primal instincts, allowing you and sister to share a chamber, she declared with excitement. Cheng Chimo was speechless. Could this woman truly be so naive? Changsun Wuxin forced a smile, casting a furtive glance at Changsun Wuqiu, pondering if she had inadvertently revealed the secret shared with Cheng Chimo. Otherwise, what could account for such behavior? Cheng Chimo shook his head, initially perceiving Changsun Wuxin as astute. Yet here she was acting foolishly. Drink a cup. Let me witness, he commanded. Changsun Wuqiu raised her cup and drank it all, even showing him the empty cup. Cheng Chimo opened his mouth, at a loss for words. Changsun Wuxin was determined to prevent her sister from causing further chaos. She stood and grasped her sister's hand, leading her away from the hall. What is wrong with you? Speak truthfully. Does the train incident involve you? She questioned. She held no concern regarding her sister's involvement, confident in her ability to extricate her from trouble, especially since Cheng Chimo held a fondness for her. As long as she spoke up, Cheng Chimo would likely show leniency. As long as no one perished, the rest could be managed. Changsun Wuqiu nodded in concession. I am aware of everything, but regrettably, I lack the authority to decide. She continued, if it were me, I would never tamper with the train. The risks are too great. Instead, I would fill the train with explosives and send Cheng Chimo skyward. Changsun Wuxin's face darkened, and she pinched her sister's cheek. Your remarks are too reckless. Do not speak so carelessly. After taking a breath, she felt relieved. Her sister was not the mastermind, and thus, she was safe. Very well, do not strike me. I have a secret to share, Changsun Wuqiu insisted. Yet before she could divulge it, a member of the Sun family rushed in. Madam, you are summoned. The family member stated. Changsun Wuqiu wore a troubled expression, while Changsun Wuxin furrowed her brow at the Sun family representative. Leave, she ordered. The representative appeared apprehensive, glancing at Changsun Wuqiu, who was reluctant to depart. With no choice, Changsun Wuqiu followed the representative out, casting a silent warning glance at her sister. Be cautious. Changsun Wuxin watched her sister disappear, then hurried back into the grand hall. Upon reaching the entrance, she overheard Cheng Chimo speaking. How does your family intend to justify this? He asked. Justice is dictated by the emperor's word. If the emperor declares our family guilty, then we are guilty. Conversely, if he exonerates us, we are innocent. The head of the Sun family replied. Cheng Chimo chuckled softly, finding the Sun family's leader's words rather pleasing. Well then, I shall take my leave for today. I am weary, he stated. The head of the Sun family acquiesced, and as Cheng Chimo rose, the family head followed suit. Upon exiting the grand hall, Cheng Chimo encountered Changsun Wuxin. Your conversation seemed to progress swiftly, he remarked. Changsun Wuxin smiled, concealing her innermost thoughts. Having overheard their dialogue, she felt assured that the Sun family would not face dire consequences. If possible, she sincerely wished to spare her sister from familial strife. The head of the Sun family escorted Cheng Chimo to a secluded courtyard. Cheng Chumo observed the surroundings, deeming it satisfactory. It will suffice, he remarked. Do you believe what he said? Changsun Wuxin inquired. Cheng Chumo refrained from responding. The Sun family leader's statements held no relevance to him, and he found no desire to dwell on them. There was indeed truth in the remark that the outcome hinged solely on Cheng Chumo's declaration. If he declared the Sun family guilty, individuals like Wang Gang would seek evidence against them. Any explanation from the Sun family would be futile. Conversely, should he assert their innocence, no one would pursue the matter. What did you discuss? Cheng Chumo pressed. Changsun Wuxin shook her head. Nothing of significance, she replied. Cheng Chumo chose not to inquire further. Han Tu entered the courtyard, announcing, there are reports from the front lines. He handed Cheng Chumo a battle report, which he opened, his demeanor shifting to one of shock. The fortunate general has fallen, 30,000 soldiers dead, and the Tang army has suffered a catastrophic defeat. Return to the capital. Cheng Chumo ordered. Han Tu nodded. Prepare the steeds. What has happened to the emperor? Asked Changsun Wuxin. Cheng Chumo was unwilling to respond. Summon Wang Gang to see me. Cheng Chumo instructed. Shortly thereafter, Wang Gang arrived at the courtyard, already informed about the situation at the front lines. What is your command, your majesty? Wang Gang inquired. At such a moment, it was crucial to refrain from unnecessary chatter. Lives were at stake. Investigate the Sun family. I have no time to deal with trifles. If they have committed any egregious acts, eradicate them, Cheng Chumo declared. Wang Gang nodded, fully aware of what was to be done. Clouds of white smoke ascended from the Sun residence. Cheng Chumo frowned at the sky. It's poisonous, he remarked. Changsun Wuxin widened his eyes. Realizing why his sister had warned her to be cautious, the Sun family was prepared to fight to the death. Alas, Changsun Wuxin sighed, feeling helpless. What kind of net could possibly capture such a significant fish as Cheng Chumo? The Sun family was courting death. Wang Gang's expression darkened. Prepare for action, he commanded. He had come prepared, knowing that there were matters Cheng Chumo would not consider. The Wang family soldiers commenced their assault. After the discovery of poisonous smoke, the threat diminished significantly. The slaughter began, and Cheng Chumo exited the Sun residence, leaving no one behind. Not a single one left, Cheng Chumo stated. Changsun Wuxia and Changsun Wuxin wished to speak, but Cheng Chumo waved his hand to interrupt. He was not in the mood for romantic entanglements at this moment. Do not inquire about anything. I am too occupied, Cheng Chumo asserted. The merchants of war had returned. The fallen general's death had successfully prompted the re-emergence of Cheng Chumo, the city-slaying general. Chapter 436. Cheng Chumo's lack of shame. Changsun Wuxin and Changsun Wuxia dared not ask further and hastened to find Wang Gang, hoping he could save Changsun Wuxio's life. 3 days later, Cheng Chumo returned to Chang'an by train. The atmosphere in Chang'an was exceedingly oppressive. The common folk refrained from discussing national matters. It was not that they could not speak, but rather that they did not wish to. The defeat had been too catastrophic. The fallen general had perished. And out of 200,000 troops, only a few thousand had returned, pursued for 1,000 miles by the Arab Empire. Cheng Chumo arrived at the palace, where Wu Zetian hurried to greet him. Wu, she cried, throwing herself into Cheng Chumo's embrace. He patted her back reassuringly. I have returned. I will resolve this matter. Cheng Chumo assured her. Wu Zetian nodded, rising from his embrace, her eyes glistening with tears as she gazed at him. Her complexion was haggard, dark circles under her eyes, and her eyelids swollen. Notify all ministers to attend court, Cheng Chumo commanded. The palace maidens were dispatched to relay the news. Word of Cheng Chumo's return spread quickly. The common folk gathered before the palace. This marked the first time since his ascension that the Tang dynasty had suffered such a severe blow. The populace petitioned to embark on an expedition alongside the emperor. In the Taiji Hall, Cheng Chumo stood before the dragon throne, with ministers gazing at him. Accelerate the production of weaponry at all military factories. Mobilize all cannons nationwide, and order Wang Xuanzi to station troops at Dashi country. Summon warhorses from across the nation. Command all military generals to gather in Gansu, and dispatch all physicians to Gansu, while also requisitioning warships to set sail for the Bohai Sea. Cheng Chumo declared in one breath. The ministers collectively knelt, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. The defeat was truly vexing. It was unacceptable for the Tang dynasty to have lost. Draft soldiers nationwide, Cheng Chumo continued. This must be completed within 3 months. All newspapers must vigorously publicize this defeat, informing the world that I intend to pacify the Arab Empire. Cheng Chumo reiterated. We obey your command. The ministers responded in unison. After the court meeting concluded, all civilian trains were repurposed for military use. The conscription began. Cheng Chumo did not specify how many soldiers were needed. The more, the better. The populace was exhilarated upon hearing that Cheng Chumo would personally lead the charge. Everyone was aware of the advantages that came with serving under him. Across the nation, his soldiers were numerous. Returning home meant becoming local tyrants. Those who had faced unfair treatment dared not show their faces again, for that would be courting death. The veterans would never bully anyone. Upon returning home, they would continue to adhere to military discipline, earning the love and respect of the populace. The common folk aspired to emulate them, yearning for a chance to prove themselves for 3 generations. To die in battle would be even more glorious. The state would provide for 3 generations and ensure they received special training. A saying circulated among the people. The fastest way to get rich is not by robbing a bank, but by following Cheng Chumo into battle. The conscription commenced. On the first day, 300,000 people registered to enlist. It was not that there weren't many eager volunteers, but rather that there were insufficient recorders. In many places, the recording personnel were lax and were beaten by the common folk. This proved effective, and the next day, the number of registrants surged to 1 million. During the morning court session, the ministers were left dumbfounded. In just 2 days, 130,000 people had signed up for military service. How many soldiers would need to be conscripted in half a month? The Tang dynasty's population stood at 50 million. Just thinking about it was terrifying. The emperor's plans would need to be altered. Conscription could not last for half a month, one minister suggested. Then let it be 1 week, Cheng Chumo replied. The officials nodded, and an announcement was made nationwide that day. On the third day, even more people registered. Trains operated at full capacity to transport the new recruits to the grasslands, where they were to assemble. All equipment was sent to the grasslands, with the son of the fallen general tasked with guarding it. Anyone who dared to steal even a single component would be executed. Anyone who jeopardized his quest for vengeance would be courting death, for he had grown up in the palace. There was no envy. This was a life bought with his mother as sacrifice. Within a week, the conscription concluded. Cheng Chumo also arrived at the grasslands, where a staggering 8 million soldiers gathered. Was there any need for battle? Over 100,000 military generals stood ready. Wang Xuanzi followed Cheng Chumo, stunned as he reviewed the troops. 500 soldiers appeared dark and imposing on one side. 8 million soldiers, what a vast number. When had the Tang dynasty ever boasted such a formidable army? If anyone dares to bully our Tang dynasty, I cannot endure it. Can you? Cheng Chumo roared into a loudspeaker. We cannot endure it. The military generals bellowed in unison. The dawn of the Empire War. This battle will send tremors through the world and will deter enemies from stepping foot on Tang territory for a millennium, Cheng Chumo proclaimed. The dawn of the Empire War. This battle will send tremors through the world and will deter enemies from stepping foot on Tang territory for a millennium. The entire army echoed his words. Wherever they passed, not a blade of grass would remain. Cheng Chumo added, the soldier's blood is boiling. The city-slaying general has returned. Once the rally concluded, Cheng Chumo turned to Wang Xuanzi. You have 6 months to train the new recruits. After that, we shall cross the border and engage in battle. Cheng Chumo instructed. Wang Xuanzi nodded, feeling the immense pressure. 8 million soldiers were no trifling matter, and Cheng Chumo did not concern himself with his training methods. That was the duty of a commander. If he could not manage this, he might as well go home and tend to children. Cheng Chumo took the time to return to Gansu, where the lakeside villa was bustling with activity. The women surrounded the 3 men, watching intently. Changsun Wuxia, Changsun Wuchen, and Changsun Wuqiu felt their faces flush with embarrassment. I am your concubine, declared Changsun Wuchen. The women looked at her with disdain, wondering how she could claim such a title. When did I ever have a concubine? Li Lizzie retorted, refusing to acknowledge it. Since the Empress Dowager had denied it during her lifetime, they too would not concede. Private discussions could occur, but official recognition was out of the question. Li Lizzie turned her gaze toward Changsun Wuqiu, who shivered in fear. How terrifying. I've heard you have a penchant for poisoning, Li Lizzie remarked, prompting the women to pull her aside for a scolding. Changsun Wuqiu looked to her sister Changsun Wuchen for assistance, but Changsun Wuchen feigned ignorance. Considering it fortunate that she could preserve her life, punishment was inevitable. Her actions bear no relation to us, Changsun Wuchen stated. She had never anticipated encountering such overwhelming pressure from Li Lizzie. Li Lizzie smiled faintly. With a large household, rules must be established. Newcomers must be dealt with. You will cook for a year. Do you have any objections? Speak now if you do, she added, exuding an air of authority. None, replied Changsun Wuchen. Li Lizzie directed her attention to Changsun Wuxia, who was on the verge of tears. I am your concubine. You can believe it, Changsun Wuxia insisted. Presenting a golden hairpin gifted by Empress Changsun, Li Lizzie examined the pin, recognizing it as their mother's. Greetings, concubine, she said, bowing respectfully. The other women followed suit, their eyes glistening with tears. Changsun Wuxia bore a striking resemblance to their sister, evoking memories of her. After the formalities, the women ushered Changsun Wuxia to the sofa for a chat, offering her an abundance of delicacies and jewelry as a token of their meeting. Sighing, Li Lizzie lamented that the empress could never be replaced in their hearts. Is this acceptable? Changsun Wuchen inquired. Li Lizzie understood her meaning. The more they treated Changsun Wuxia with concern, the more isolated she would feel, for what she truly lacked was Cheng Chumo's presence. What would happen once she was placed in the position of a concubine? It matters not. The prince is shameless, Li Lizzie replied. Ahem. Cheng Chumo coughed a few times at the doorway. Li Lizzie shot him a disapproving glance. Have you eaten? She asked. No, I will leave shortly. There is much to attend to at the military camp. I will return when I can, Cheng Chumo responded. Chapter 437. The first battle. As Li Lizzie walked toward Cheng Chumo, the two departed the villa for the lakeside pavilion. What troubles you, prince? Are you feeling unwell? She inquired. Yes, my absence will be prolonged this time, Cheng Chumo replied. Li Lizzie wrapped her arms around his waist, resting her head against his chest. You simply cannot remain idle, she remarked. Cheng Chumo silently acknowledged her words. Indeed, there was little to occupy oneself with in this era. Fishing caused back pain, drinking led to headaches, and gazing at beautiful women strained the eyes. What else was there to do? Everything lost its novelty within days. How delightful it would be to possess a smartphone, to watch the latest shows and stay updated on current events, he mused. But alas, during peacetime, there is little to engage in. Have you ever seen 800,000 special forces? I've sent Wang Xuanzi to train them. They will be ready for battle in 6 months, Cheng Chimo declared. Li Lizzie was at a loss for words. Who are we fighting with 800,000? Are we changing our residence? The construction teams of the Great Tang should not be idle. Direct them to repair wherever the army advances, she suggested. Cheng Chimo nodded, as his return was indeed for this purpose. If the railway maintained pace, the supply lines would be secured, ensuring no worries on the battlefield. When Cheng Chimo returned to Gansu, the Arab Empire had already caught wind of the Great Tang's movements. Stunned, the entire empire had been celebrating when they suddenly learned of the Great Tang amassing 800,000 troops for an invasion. My lord, how shall we respond to the 800,000 Tang forces? An Arab official queried. The king of the Arab Empire was at a loss for words. 800,000? Is there even a need to respond? My lord, we should retreat to the north, one minister suggested. There is no need to engage. Especially when Cheng Chimo leads the charge, another added. Father, we must withdraw. Cheng Chimo will annihilate us, a prince asserted. The ministers agreed, none daring to challenge his statement. He speaks the truth. Cheng Chimo is merciless in battle. The once formidable generals of the empire remained silent, their confidence shattered by the sheer number of Tang troops. What would it look like for 1 million Tang soldiers to storm the Arab Empire? It was not just a conquest, it was a complete upheaval. They could guarantee that a decade of warfare would decimate their population, while the Great Tang would see an increase in births. There exists a grim rule of war. Kill the men and spare the women. This would be a battle leading to the extinction of their lineage. We must seek assistance, the king of the Arab Empire urged. The ministers, resigned, pondered how the king could think that help would come from other nations. Did they believe those nations would assist the Arabs? They were gravely mistaken. The pleas for aid were met with swift responses. The might of the Great Tang invoked fear, presenting a singular opportunity to weaken their power. Should they miss this chance, they would find themselves at the mercy of others. Both sides underwent 6 months of preparation. The Great Stone Kingdom. The 800,000 troops were divided into 8 armies. Cheng Chimo was reviewing his forces. Are we ready? He inquired. The soldiers looked on with eager anticipation. Crossing the border ahead lay the Arab Empire. This battle would be prolonged, but upon achieving victory, I, Cheng Chimo, shall not neglect any warrior, and the Great Tang shall honor each fighter. As the war drums sounded, the massive army split again, with each division comprising 100,000 soldiers. They surged across the border simultaneously. The Arabs watched from afar as the sea of Tang soldiers approached, instantly losing their resolve to resist. 100 miles from the Great Stone Kingdom, the coalition's camp was tense with anxious generals. It has begun. They initially believed the Great Tang's show of force to be mere bluster, doubting the existence of 800,000 troops. Even if such numbers were true, they assumed there would not be sufficient weaponry. Today, they would realize the magnitude of their miscalculations. The Great Tang indeed possessed 800,000 troops. This was a staggering figure, revealing the immense strength of the Tang Empire. Warfare is a matter of resources. How much food would 800,000 troops require? How many supplies? It was beyond measure, especially with the construction teams supporting the army, which numbered significantly as well. How could the Great Tang sustain such a mobilization? Only those who have visited Chang'an can truly appreciate the wealth of the Great Tang. Only they could afford a war of such magnitude. Other nations could scarcely conceive of it. In the coalition, many nations do not possess a population of 8 million. Alas, the grandeur of the Tang dynasty is indeed beyond our comprehension, a wealth so profound that it baffles the imagination, remarked an Arab general. Through trade, the Arabs have witnessed the splendor of the Tang dynasty, with many officials having experienced its opulence firsthand. A mere 2 days' journey spans 100 miles. And soon we shall confront the formidable Tang army of 800,000. What shall we do? Queried a general. We shall strike them individually. Their forces cannot possibly be consolidated. If we can breach a single point, their mighty army shall be rendered as scattered as chaff, suggested another general. The others concurred. Recognizing this as the only viable strategy, the notion of a direct confrontation was futile. It is through dire circumstances that ingenuity is often sparked, noted one whose resolve was firm. 2 days later, the coalition selected a contingent of 100,000 troops. As they prepared for the assault, they found themselves at a loss. Is this the configuration of the Tang army? At the front stood 100 cannons, flanked by 20,000 cavalry on the left and another 20,000 infantry on the right, with a central force of 50,000 foot soldiers. Alongside a contingent of 1,000 men whose purpose was unclear. They were accompanied by carts, woven baskets atop, which appeared capable of carrying 3 or 4 individuals. Shall we engage them? We hold the advantage with our 200,000 strong, one of the generals proclaimed. The commander clenched his jaw. This was their sole opportunity. Once the Tang forces assembled, they would be overwhelmed, and the city would be lost. With a command, the offensive was launched. 300,000 surged forward, a front stretching 50 miles. Among them was Cheng Chimo, who ordered the balloons to ascend and the artillery to commence firing. Hundreds of balloons took to the sky, leaving the coalition in stunned disbelief. What was this? Explosives rained down from above, sending coalition soldiers tumbling in disarray. The thunderous roar of cannon fire ensued, and before the soldiers could comprehend their plight, they were met with devastation. After a relentless barrage, the infantry charged, while the cavalry maneuvered to flank, and the foot soldiers followed suit. Cheng Chimo commanded the troops to alter their formation. The infantry began to unleash a hail of gunfire, and coalition soldiers fell in droves. The coalition commander's expression turned grave as he ordered the front lines to retreat. Fearful of being too late, he realized that this battle was unwinnable. The morale of the troops had been obliterated by the bombardment. Should their escape route be severed, engaging the enemy would become a matter of survival. This 50-mile front could very well be their grave. As the coalition began to withdraw, Cheng Chimo seized the opportunity. The barrage intensified, and the balloons continued to rain destruction upon the coalition forces. 3 days later, the coalition finally broke free from the clutches of the Tang army. After counting their numbers, the coalition commander felt the weight of despair. The losses were catastrophic. They had been pursued relentlessly for 3 days. Those 3 days felt like an eternity. Out of 200,000 troops, only 30,000 returned to the city alive. The rest perished in battle. How can we continue to fight? One general lamented. It was not mere defeatist talk. The prospect of victory seemed impossible. In the Tang military camp, Cheng Chimo ordered the troops to stand down. Dismounting, he felt the golden sands beneath his feet. Thus fell the fortunate general, he mused to himself. Chapter 438. Cheng Chimo faces disdain. What is paramount in a desert expedition? The fortunate general excelled in commanding cavalry, whose greatest advantage lies in their speed, rapidly accomplishing tasks beyond the capacity of infantry. This is the essence of cavalry's strength. Yet their weaknesses are glaringly apparent, particularly concerning supplies. Providing sustenance for 200,000 cavalry is no trifling matter. The nomadic cavalry typically forage for their provisions, herding cattle and sheep wherever they roam. However, in the desert, there is no pasture to sustain them, and water becomes a critical issue. This was the very reason for the general's downfall. Cheng Chimo vowed to prevent such a fate. There are rivers within Arab territory, and Cheng Chimo resolved to secure this region first. He understood the necessity of transporting water and other supplies. One cannot place all their eggs in one basket. Why does our sovereign not annihilate them completely? I possess the capacity to do so, Cheng Ming asserted, visibly frustrated. Having allowed so many enemies to escape left him discontented. Engaging in a desperate struggle, Cheng Chimo retorted. Cheng Ming scratched his head, unconcerned about the prospect of a desperate fight. He believed he possessed the strength to cripple the enemy. Cheng Chimo, however, was reluctant to explain. A desperate struggle would only lead to greater casualties. It was still early days, and one must conserve strength for the larger battles ahead. They rested in place, awaiting the arrival of allied forces. Cheng Chimo noted a city in the distance, housing a coalition of 500,000. Cheng Ming, exhaling in resignation, departed. Cheng Chimo's expression darkened. He felt as though this mountain cannon was mocking his leadership. He had taught them how to fight fiercely, but could not instill in them the wisdom of waging wars with minimal losses. It was unrealistic to deplete their forces in every encounter. The soldiers longed to return to their families. Half a month later, this city was encircled by 800,000 troops. Over 100 commanders convened in Cheng Chimo's tent. Securing this place is vital. We shall establish a hospital and an ironworks here, Cheng Chimo declared. The military leaders nodded in agreement, commencing discussions on who would assist in the assault. Cheng Chimo's head throbbed. There was no need for elaborate plans. Fire the cannons and demolish the place, he commanded. The military leaders complied and returned to prepare. That day, the sound of artillery erupted. Over 100,000 cannons fired in unison. After 3 volleys, a white flag was raised above the city walls. Continue, Cheng Chimo ordered. As if he had not seen it. The bombardment persisted for 3 full days. The once mighty city vanished from sight. The Tang forces surged forth, encountering no resistance. We must not become overly concentrated, Cheng Chimo remarked. Wang Xuanzi nodded in agreement, acknowledging the danger of concentration, as the Arabs possessed artillery too. The enemy ahead bore witness to the consequences of being overly clustered. Many foes fell without comprehending their demise. Upon surveying the battlefield, all the generals sighed at the ruins, lamenting the loss of military merit. How much merit they had squandered. This was a lost opportunity for glory, now claimed by the cannons. The soldiers were left speechless. Had they not been promised endless military accolades by following Cheng Chimo? Where were those accolades now? If this continued, it would severely affect morale, Wang Xuanzi noted. Equally perplexed by the ease of their conquest. He had anticipated a fierce battle, yet the Arabs had proven to be a mere shadow. Cheng Chimo, too, was bewildered. Did the coalition not consider digging tunnels? How could they simply endure the bombardment? It was no fault of the enemy. They had dug tunnels, yet found themselves trapped, unable to escape. What were the repercussions of digging tunnels in sandy soil? They would be buried alive beneath the bombardment, and the cleanup would be unnecessary. At this rate, the Arab nation would face extinction within 2 years, Cheng Chimo declared. Wang Xuanzi observed the horizon with swift movement. They could accomplish their objectives within a year. There was no need for 2 years. Let us launch a full-scale assault, Cheng Chimo commanded. Wang Xuanzi concurred and ordered the continuation of the offensive. The generals have learned to be wise this time. They will flee as far as they can. determined not to repeat the folly of their previous endeavor, which yielded no military merit despite the arduous journey. Such an endeavor is a loss-making venture that jeopardizes one's career. A mistake must never be committed twice. When Cheng Chimo contemplated gathering his forces again, he was taken aback to find many troops had vanished without a trace. While some still reported to him that they would heed orders from the outside, but not others. Cheng Chimo's face darkened, for these generals displayed considerable audacity. After the battle, he would have to deal with each of them individually. "My lord, why not take a stroll on your own?" suggested Cheng Meng, who was utterly speechless at the situation. Cheng Chimo opened his mouth but could not voice a reply. He was surprisingly disdained by Cheng Meng. "My lord, do take a moment to clear your mind. I implore you," Cheng Meng insisted. Cheng Chimo's expression grew even darker, yet he found himself powerless to object. Were he in their position, he too would not wish to accompany Cheng Chimo. Other commanders looked on eagerly, hoping Cheng Chimo would take a walk, preferably to oversee logistics, as his presence on the front lines was of little utility. With Cheng Chimo around, their marching pace lagged significantly compared to other armies. By the time they reached the front, they could scarcely manage a drink of water. Fortunately, Arabia was vast. Cheng Chimo gazed up at the sky, reflecting on how a legendary general had fallen to such a plight. Truly, the tides of talent come and go, each generation producing its luminaries. "Very well, I shall take a stroll," Cheng Chimo acquiesced. He surrendered to their wishes. The soldiers shared their dissatisfaction as well. They had come to earn military merit, not merely to observe. They would rather return home to tend to their fields than meander about aimlessly. Cheng Chimo departed the camp, with the special forces following suit. "My lord, shall we return? We are clearly not welcome here," the captain of the special forces remarked. Cheng Chimo felt a pang of despair. "What if we return and bring along a few ladies? Just to lighten the mood," suggested the captain once more. Cheng Chimo's face darkened further as he shot a glare at the captain, who remained unfazed. He had heard from the mistress that the Cheng family was currently scant in numbers, with Cheng Chimo's primary task being to rest and reproduce. Other matters would naturally be taken care of by others. The Tang dynasty had never lacked capable warriors. New generations replaced the old. Cheng Chimo had long since retreated to a secondary role. The organization could function without him, and the remaining affairs bore little relation to him. Besides, with Wang Xuanzi present, what could possibly go awry? There were many others of equal caliber among the generals, none of whom were inexperienced. "Let us fetch Li Zi," Cheng Chimo decided. He once again felt the weight of boredom. The special forces complied, and the group arrived at the city that had been devastated but was now rebuilt, with railways laid down. Upon seeing Cheng Chimo approach, the officials of the engineering team appeared wary. "Your Majesty, we have little to offer in terms of merit. Perhaps you might wish to inspect elsewhere," one official suggested. Cheng Chimo's expression darkened as he shot a fierce glare at the official. "Mind your own business. And if you dare to prattle further, I shall take my leave," he warned. The official trembled. Cheng Chimo's reputation had already spread along the front lines, and even those in the rear were aware. No one wished to host Cheng Chimo, as it would only delay matters. "Your Majesty, please proceed with your tasks, rest assured. Logistics are in capable hands. No general at the front can outpace a train. Supplies can be delivered to the front lines in a single day," the official insisted, eager to avoid Cheng Chimo's involvement. Cheng Chimo turned and left, while the special forces glared at the official. "What is your problem? You shouldn't speak so carelessly. Just wait until the battle is over, and we shall see how we deal with you," the special forces remarked, suppressing their laughter. The official nodded and bowed, realizing they were jesting. 3 days later, Li Lizi arrived with Changsun Wuching. Chapter 439, Revelry. He. I heard the prince is being disregarded? How pitiful." Li Lizi's first words upon seeing Cheng Chimo were filled with mockery. Cheng Chimo's face darkened. Seeing his reaction only delighted Li Lizi further. "My prince, don't succumb to despair. Divine Doctor Sun has come along with us. Perhaps you could learn some medical skills to avoid causing anyone distress with your needles," she teased. Cheng Chimo's expression soured even more. "That is a natural response," he retorted. Li Lizi did not argue further. Changsun Wuching, having heard about the matter from his sister Changsun Wuxia, felt his face flush with embarrassment. Cheng Chimo shot a glare at Changsun Wuching, who could no longer contain himself and burst into laughter, clutching his stomach. "What did you bring her here for?" Cheng Chimo inquired, feeling a bit guilty, wondering if Li Lizi was aware of his relationship with Changsun Wuching. Li Lizi rolled her eyes playfully. It was not her intention to bring Changsun Wuching. It was the latter who had implored her to come along. "You can ask her," Li Lizi said. Cheng Chimo turned to Changsun Wuching, who smiled for a moment before beginning to explain. "Cooking is too exhausting," he admitted earnestly. In Gansu, cooking was indeed the harshest form of punishment. With so many women, tastes varied, and one had to inquire individually about preferences. Failing to meet expectations could lead to bullying. Cheng Chimo secretly sighed in relief. It was fortunate he had not been discovered. He discreetly exchanged a glance with Changsun Wuching, who understood immediately. "Where is the divine doctor?" Cheng Chimo asked. Li Lizi pointed towards a room. Cheng Chimo walked away with his hands clasped behind his back. Li Lizi turned to Changsun Wuching. "You must honestly confess if you have any secrets," she probed. Changsun Wuching forced a smile, realizing how astute and observant she was. He stammered, unable to articulate his thoughts. Li Lizi smirked. "How dare you indulge in secret affairs? Just wait until we return home. The sisters will deal with you, she warned. Changsun Wuqing nearly cried, feeling utterly helpless. In his youth, he had bullied Empress Changsun, and now the tables had turned. Can we not cook? Changsun Wuqing pleaded. Dream on, Li Lizi replied. After saying this, she linked her arm with Changsun Wuqing's. Let us go inspect our carriage. The ground here is all sand, she suggested. Changsun Wuqing nodded. Feeling a surge of joy, it was evident that Li Lizi did not genuinely wish to torment her. This was a relief, as she genuinely feared Li Lizi might seek vengeance for her mother. In that case, Changsun Wuqing would be doomed. Cheng Chumo's earlier display had clearly shown respect for Li Lizi. Are you curious as to why Cheng Chumo behaves thus in my presence? Li Lizi inquired, seemingly reading Changsun Wuqing's thoughts. Why is